Hi, everyone. Tony from Hack the Movies here with my co-host from Casilla vs. the Pod Monster. You know those videos that come out on Fridays that most of you don't watch? It's also a podcast you could download. Please download that podcast.
Can I now say that I'm on Talking About Tapes when you introduced me on Casilla?
No. Yeah, so...
That's unfortunate.
So we have a Godzilla podcast and we talk about giant monsters a lot. We tend to steer clear of King Kong, though. Except for the Toho version.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of before the Toho monsters, so I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to talk about some King Kong stuff. And what do you know it, when I looked up the poster for King Kong 76, since the movie came out in December, the poster said King Kong for Christmas.
Why is there always a bug in here when I'm recording?
Last time you were here,
a gnat
was here, and now it's grown up into a fly, I guess.
It's huge.
I know, all day long we've had flies here. I think it's getting fumigated over the weekend, maybe? I had to buy the bands, the...
Raid strips?
Yes. Anyway,
Oh
let's talk about King Kong. This is the 1976 remake.
Yay!
I kind of love this movie. Produced by Dino De Laurentiis. Who's the rare Italian producer who actually produced some decent movies, like the Hannibal Lecter movies. He produced a lot of stuff.
I also saw, was it Michael Eisner apparently was part of this? Like, it was his idea that
Oh,
wanted
really?
to do a reboot, which I like Michael Eisner to a point, but then he ruined the People Mover in Disneyland, and like, no one's ever gonna forget. No
Okay,
one.
well, this was 1976 years.
I don't care.
It was directed by John Guillermin and written by Lorenzo Simple Jr. We'll get to him in a second. And the effects were a collaborative effort between Rick Baker and Carlo Rambaldi. Now, Rick Baker, he helped make the suit with the face. The Kong is a suit in this movie. They wanted Kong to be a full-size practical effect, and I think Newt was telling us they told investors that it was going to be this big thing, and they got a lot of money for it. They built the full-size practical effect, and, well, it didn't work out the way they wanted. We'll get to that as we go throughout the movie. But Lorenzo Simple Jr., he has a thing here. I have a quote from him. "We made a very deliberate attempt not to be anything like the original movie in tone or mood. Dino wanted it to be light and amusing rather than portentous. Portentous. I don't think the original was meant to be mythic. The original King Kong is extremely crude. I don't mean it's not wonderful. It was remarkable for its time. But it was a very small backlot picture. We thought times had changed so much that audiences were more sophisticated. Dino felt we could have more fun with it. We hoped to do sensational things with advanced special effects on a big screen." When I think of sophisticated, I think of King Kong 1976.
The original.
No, I think of this one.
Why?
Obviously. I guess we should point out I love the original King Kong. Really
you also
good.
really like the Peter Jackson one.
I really did like the Peter Jackson one.
Remember when you were obsessed
because
with
it was big at the time.
Well, I mean, it's still good.
Yeah.
But, like, you think I'm bad with porgs? You had a problem.
The original King Kong is great, and since this was a movie made before 2016, we're sorry. I'm sure it was problematic. We apologize that something about the natives is offensive, and
I have something to point out that's pretty offensive when we get to that point.
Okay. Yes, the Asian character in the original is problematic. Cancel Marion C. Cooper. Cancel RKO Pictures. They're all dead. But cancel them anyway. Great movie anyway. Let's talk about this, King Kong 76. I grew up watching this movie. Because I saw I saw the original black and white one, and I loved King Kong, and I'm like, oh, there's a remake in color? And then
How'd that make you feel, watching that as a kid?
Oh, as a kid, I loved it.
Oh my god.
I loved it. There was one aspect that let me down, which we'll get to, but instead of a boat full of a crew that's going to shoot a movie, it is a boat looking for oil.
Yeah.
Instead of a director, the dad from Beethoven, that's who he was, by the way.
I realized, I was like, wait, who is that? And then I IMDb'd and I was like, oh.
the dad from Beethoven, he is the whatever that character is in King Kong, the Jack Black character. The director character is now an oil guy, and all the oil stuff was put in because in the 70s there was the energy crisis, there was an oil crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like the head of it, he knows about this island, And there's something weird here. I always think Richard Kiel from Ega is in this.
I love Ega.
Ega's good. Also known, I'm sorry, Jaws from James Bond. That's probably the more memorable character, but I always think he's in this, but it's actually Jack O'Halloran, who was Non in Superman 2, the mute Kryptonian. Do you know a lot about that guy?
Not really. I know he's in the movie.
That guy is a fascinating person. His family was like heavily in the mob. And I think characters in The Godfather are based off his dad. So he was like involved in the mob and then just was like, I'm gonna be an actor now.
Sure.
He was also a boxer. He's like a real interesting dude. Yeah, so the company is called Petrox. And apparently that was a reference to pet rocks because that was like the fad that was going around at that time. So people used to paint rocks and they were pet rocks, and people in the 70s were stupid. That'd be like obsessing over like a stupid penguin thing from a Star Wars movie. It's really dumb. What do you got on your shirt there?
Porg.
Oh my god, it's all sequel trilogy stuff.
BB-8, Admiral Akbar, Ahsoka, Chewbacca, Porg, Stormtrooper.
Oh my god.
C-3PO, Lothcat.
Ah.
It's a great shirt.
Ah. Okay. It's a dinosaur.
2 years old.
Yeah, so this oil company's getting ready to go somewhere, and Jeff Bridges sneaks in. And my girlfriend, the entire movie, just couldn't stop talking about how dreamy Jeff Bridges was.
He's so hot. Him and Jessica.
Yeah, until he took his shirt off, and then she's like, he's too thin. And I'm like,
yeah, I'm sure that's
right.
exactly what she said.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So we find out that the oil guy, now this was like a thing. In the original script, the oil dude, I can't remember his name, oil guy, Beethoven dad, in the original script, he found the map to King Kong from like the Vatican. Like the Vatican had secret files. And someone involved in the movie was very offended by that, so they changed it to the U.S. government. The oil guy paid off the U.S. government to look the other way, and so he could, like, find this island. So they're talking about an island that's constantly covered in fog, and they're taking, like, radar stuff, and they're like, there's so much heat from this, it's gotta be from oil. And then Jeff Bridges is like, no, you're wrong, I'm Jeff Bridges. And they're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Jeff Bridges. And they're like, oh, who are you in this movie? And they're like, oh, I'm a primatologist?
Jack was his name?
Yeah, he was like Jack. Primatologist who is also a paleontologist, and he's heard stories of this.
Yeah, he went to school for like something else or was studying something else, but then he like switched over. My favorite's when they're like checking his like IDs and stuff. They're like, we don't believe this is a real guy, but it's literally who he is.
Yeah, they're like, you're from Exxon, you're from this, you're from Shell, I know it. We're naming all the real oil companies.
Oh, you're actually the dude. All right, anyway, I'm gonna take the sandwich away.
Yeah, once they figure out who he is, they're like, oh, cool, you want to come to us to the island?
I know, let's go.
He's like, yeah, I'll go check out the island, sure. So he's kind of an environmentalist, sort of. If this was in the 90s, it would have been way worse. Oh, yeah. So yeah, they go to the Island of the Skull. They never call it Skull Island, which I thought was interesting. So this movie goes on for 15 minutes and then suddenly remembers that women should probably be in it.
Just one.
Yeah, just one. Well, I mean,
they show other women, but like...
Wow, did you not think they were valid? So Jessica Lange shows up, and one interesting thing about her in this movie is she is hot as fuck.
She's still a babe.
I guess,
If she asked me, I'd be like, please.
So this is her breakout role. This is like the first...
introducing.
Yeah, and this blew her career up, which led to another young girl 10 years later picking to be in the sequel, and it didn't... Her career was still fine, but the movie did not help. Unrelated picture of Linda Hamilton. Aww. Anyway, so they find her in a raft, and one interesting thing about Jessica Lange. This story broke in 2008, and it comes up all the time. A lot of people auditioned for this. Kim Basinger, I forget who else, but Meryl Streep has the story. Did you see that story?
Meryl. Poor Meryl.
Now, keep in mind, there's no way to back up the story, and women sometimes do this thing called lying. So Meryl Streep, who I think is a phony baloney, might be lying.
You're a phony baloney.
It's a Seinfeld reference.
Queen Meryl.
So Meryl Streep apparently went to audition, and she's there with Dino De Laurentiis and his son. And apparently the son in Italian was like, she's too ugly for King Kong or something. And they didn't know that she can understand Italian. So she like fired back at them or something. And then she cried about it. Clearly she got over it because in 2008 she was still bringing it up because women never forget. Anyway, Meryl Streep probably would have been fine in this movie, but you want Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're fine in this review, but the fans want Trisha or Crystal. But, you know, turns out Jessica Lange is the only survivor from a sunken vessel.
A yacht.
A yacht, yes. And,
exploded or something?
Yeah, she said she was discovered by some filmmaker, which I think is a reference to the original.
Yeah.
But then it gets a little dark. Yeah, and she says her name is Dwan. She changed the A and W to be more interesting. So we're going to call her Jessica Lange for the rest of the movie, because I'm not going to say Dwan every 5 minutes. So the funny thing about the filmmaker who discovered her, apparently him and his friends were in the bottom of the ship watching Deep Throat. And she calls him Harry or something. And apparently it's like this deep inside joke where maybe the director who discovered her was trying to get her into porn and was taking her to Singapore to be in all these porn movies. But then they all blew up except for her. So I thought that was interesting. And then the crew is super horny for her. And I understand.
Everyone is.
And they give her a bunch of clothes, which are all men's clothes. But she magically turns them into women's form-fitting clothes.
It's like booty shorts. She has like the crop top.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I cut this man's jeans and now they're perfectly
form-fit. She's like flirting
fit.
hardcore with everybody too. And everybody's just kind of like, oh, Jessica.
Yeah.
Which, look, to be honest, I would be the same way.
Again, Jessica Lange is super hot in this movie.
Again, today, I'd be like, oh, Jessica.
So yeah, they finally get to the island and the matte shot of the wall looks great. What do you think? Does the wall look great?
Yeah, amazing.
You agree the wall looks good?
Yeah.
You're a fan of the wall?
Oh, 100%. You know what? Stop it.
Anyway.
This is why people hate you.
So then it gets to the part in the classic King Kong story where they meet the natives.
Well, and, they don't meet them yet. They sneak in and then they're just watching them and taking pictures.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like they're sneaking, they're observing. And the natives actually, they look more realistic than these movies tend to portray natives. Not the ones that are dressed up, I can't speak for those, but just the natives that are hanging around. I'm like, oh, I've seen documentaries where people look like that. And then the head priest shows up, and he's a guy in an ape outfit, and he's got like a thong, and he is a fucking sexy dancer. He is built. He is the most...
I love the giant patch of like, I guess, straw hair just on his crotch.
Yeah.
By the way, this is what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So I noticed with the one woman that they're about to sacrifice.
Yeah.
They give her a wig, basically.
Okay.
It's a blonde wig.
I didn't pick up on that. That's funny.
Yeah. So, is Kong racist?
I don't know.
Because he
or not right. Maybe he just likes that color hair. I don't know.
No. So it's a person of color who is a woman with a blonde wig.
Yeah.
Clearly, like, these women that are being sacrificed are dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the white blonde woman comes along.
That's in every version of the story. I do like how every version of the story, the natives are like, well, we don't want to kill our own women. Let's grab this broad.
Like, somehow now Kong's okay with this woman. He's like, oh, I like this woman. And then he does the thing he does. Is he a racist?
Maybe. Maybe. So they spot the Americans watching them.
Yep.
And I like the priest realizes they have like a white chick and they're like, oh. And he gets like he gets like 6 of the native girls like, hey, we'll switch. And she's like, no, I'm okay. And then they go to attack him and they shoot and they run away. So they saw there was oil at the place. And so basically Jeff Bridges. So before they fired their guns and ran away, they noticed the oil that's like cooking in the earth. And Jeff Bridges, he wants to study the ape, but they won't help him. So he's about to go on his own. And he flirts with Jessica Lange for a little bit, and I guess he's kind of like, well, before I leave, let's bone or something.
Yeah, he said something like,
well, I was hoping you'd be waiting for me in your cabin.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the natives are coming in your boat.
By the way, it's so funny. So, like, I think every other version, like, the natives, like, sneak on board or something. So Jeff Bridges leaves, and Jessica...
They literally just drive by and they're
they just roll up and grab her. And like, I'm like, wow, how can they must have been like, holy shit, she's right there. Get her in, let's go. Jeff Bridges realizes she's taken, so they go to find her, and she is now in the ceremony, and she's being
No blonde wig.
No blonde wig. She doesn't need it. She is being hypnotized by the erotic dancing of the priest. Yeah, the gyrating hips. Which, by the way, this is a very, very sexual King Kong.
This entire movie, I just sat there like, oh my god.
This movie has a fucking boner. This movie has a boner. So, being a kid, you watch the original, there's like that implied romance with Kong and the girl and whatnot. This one, they're just hitting you over the head with like sexual stuff nonstop.
Hitting you over the head? They were dropping boulders on you.
So I don't think, by the way, they never show them drugging her or anything, so I really think his sexy dancing is what's hypnotizing
Fuck, that gyrating and that thing over his crotch, whatever you want to call it. I was just kind of like, that's a little distracting.
So they tie her up to the post, and then Kong shows up, and he looks pretty good. It's a,
actually, I like the eyes. Were there, like,
yeah,
were
I think they're real
contacts
eyes.
Okay.
I think they're real
They were,
eyes.
like, really, like, the actual, like iris?
Yeah.
So it was really big. So, like,
maybe
is it a
they might have
contact, or?
they might have been fake. I don't know. I have to look it up.
Oh, whatever. They look great.
Rick Baker did a ton of like makeup and practical effects, and this was like his first big one. Although he says that like his Kong isn't great in this. It's just like it was lit very well. But I think it works really well at night. Like it blends together.
Yeah.
It blends with the big hand that grabs her. The blue screen is not that terrible.
There's one scene where I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
but
overall,
I'm
hit or
okay
miss.
with it.
But it's a really good reveal, and he does a roar. And the funny thing about the roar is, it's from a Lost World movie from like the 60s or 50s, I think. But that roar has been used in so many monster movies, and I used it in the Tomb Raider AVGN episode.
Get a load of that thing.
Oh shit!
So he grabs Jessica Lange, goes into the woods, and then the crew shows up to try to rescue her. And there's a really great line of dialogue.
Who the hell do you think went through there? Some guy in an ape suit?
Because when they shot this, they thought there were going to be a lot more shots with the giant full-size Kong practical effect, and that did not happen. So
Thankfully.
I think that's supposed to be like shitting on Godzilla movies and stuff, but then the irony is they ended up mostly doing a man in a suit. Then we see Kong during the day, and the composite shots don't look as well during the day, but they still look pretty fine. Trust me, we did, on our podcast, we did King Kong versus Godzilla and King Kong Escapes, and if this movie looks fine. When you're comparing it to the Toho Kong, this looks great. Even at its worst, it looks great. Yeah. Kong is ready to eat Jessica Lange. And she wins him over by slapping him around, and
She's like yelling and beating him up. Well, beating his hand up.
Turns out that's his kink. How fucking lucky do you have to be?
Yeah, I love being beat up by tiny white women.
Yeah, I love being yelled at and belittled, and she calls him like a chauvinist.
It's really good.
You male chauvinist.
By the way, I was also dying that she keeps bringing up astrology stuff.
Yeah.
Like, even at one point, she's like, "Are you an Aries?" And I'm like, "What are you doing?"
I will say, so Kong is kind of like into it and whatnot, and then she starts mentioning astrology, and he puts her down. He looks disappointed, much like I am when chicks bring up astrology. Did I ever tell you about that one chick?
Let people have fun.
Okay, no, but here's the thing. So I was on dating sites for a while. Big mistake. Don't do it. I know I met my current girlfriend from one, but that was an exception.
You don't deserve her, though.
So when you're dating, you have to pretend to like stuff that chicks like, and one of them is astrology.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So I pretended to be interested in astrology with this chick who was too into astrology. I thought she was going to be like, "What are you, a Virgo?" And I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a Virgo." Instead, for an hour, just texting back and forth, "What house is your sign in? give me this, I need to look at the chart. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst conversation I've ever had. So astrology sucks, and I'm glad me and King Kong agree on that. The oil guy apparently called in ahead of time being like, we found the big one, so they needed the oil. Yeah, they're more concerned with that, and Kong is concerned with getting that mud off of Jessica Lange.
I want to talk about that scene.
Yeah.
So they go and they put her under the waterfall.
Yeah.
And then the blowing scene? Why was it so, like, sensual? She looked like she was, like, actually getting off on it.
So, Johanna didn't describe that right. King Kong does not blow her. He blow dries her.
He blows on her.
And actually, the effect is pretty good. They actually made his cheeks get
puffed.
really big. So he's blowing onto her. And at first she's like, and it's like, oh, that's cute. But then it goes on for too long. Like you said, it's like, okay, we get it. But then she starts, yeah, you're right. She's like, and
I'm like, can you not?
she is. I could see why that guy might have wanted to put her in a porn. By the way, when they first got to the island, the first thing they did, she just crawls around on the water. Jeff Bridges takes pictures. Her tits almost fall out. And I watched frame for frame to make sure they did. They didn't, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
She is a very sexual character. And I probably
the entire movie, she's just kind of like, and I'm like,
I probably shouldn't have been watching this as a kid, but whatever. I think, you watch the original, you're like, I want to see the giant ape fight the monsters. And then it's just King Kong blowing on a chick having an orgasm. King Kong looks so creepy. His pervy sex face looks so creepy. And then, he's like smiling. He's like, hee. And by coincidence today, I sent you the picture earlier. I was in Walmart. And I see, they have the movie toys. They have one that says King Kong, but it didn't look like any kind of King Kong I saw. And I opened it up, and the face on the figure is the pervy 76 face. I'm like, what? I'm like, they make a figure for this?
I think it's really funny that they have the King Kong stuff at Walmart, and then they have the Godzilla stuff in Target.
Yeah, they do. I noticed that. That was weird. Oil guy gets excited because they found all this oil. But then his scientist, who I'm pretty sure is an actor from Star Trek, but I can't remember what character he played, he tells him, like, yeah, the oil will be great in 10,000 years. Like, it's not ready to be used for stuff. And he's like, oh, no. And then somehow his backup plan is like, oh, I know. I'll come back with a giant gorilla. It's like, wait, what? I think even one of the characters was like, what are you talking about? He's like, what about that Exxon tiger? Put a tiger in your tank? And that was a paper tiger. And it's like, yeah, well, that's a man. What are you gonna do with the giant gorilla?
Oh my god.
So yeah, he has this whole plan to get Kong, which I thought was really stupid. Then we get the famous tree bridge scene, which is in most King Kong movies, and I think this one looks pretty decent. Kong shows up, he starts, rocking the thing, and at this point, no one knew about the missing spider pit scene in the original, so they don't even attempt to do a spider pit scene. Whereas Peter Jackson was like, I'm gonna do a spider pit scene, crikey. It's by Peter Jackson.
Yeah, I heard it before.
My favorite thing about this tree scene is every time someone falls off, they do that slow motion blue screen of them falling. So then Kong goes away, and he's by these two big rocks, which come into play later. And
these giant, monster movies and rocks.
Because it looks like a mountain, I guess, and it's easier
There's
to
always rocks.
It's easier to dress that set. I don't know. So yeah, he's by the rocks, and he's still giving Lang the perviest look in the world, and he's trying to rip her clothes off with his finger, and he gets pretty close. He's very rapey, and the movie calls him out on it later.
He knew.
And then, at an hour and 22 minutes, the movie realizes something it forgot. When you think of King Kong the original, what are some things you remember from it?
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, there's a lot of dinosaurs in the original. There's not one dinosaur in this. There is a giant fake rubber snake that looks like it's out from a Toho movie.
I like to think that the snake was a hero.
Just saving.
He was actually saving Jessica Lange.
She didn't consent.
Exactly. He was the true hero of this movie.
The snake against rape. The anti-rape snake. Just goes around the island lecturing people. Yeah, so I have this written here from Wikipedia, so it must be true. In a notable departure from the original film, Semple, the writer, dropped the dinosaurs that are present with Kong on the island. The reason for the drop subplot was due to the increased attention on Kong and Dwan's love story, and financial reasons, as De Laurentiis didn't want to use stop-motion animation in the film. Nevertheless, a giant boa constrictor was incorporated into the film. I guess they figured, they're like, we need one, you gotta give us one extra monster. But now it's kind of weird, because it's like, okay, so this island, they built the giant wall just to keep Kong and maybe this snake out? And that's it? Because the original Kong, and even the remake, it's like, oh, they built this wall because it's fucking monsters on the other side. So he gets into a fight with the snake, and he does the classic Kong jaw rip, which is in every Kong. Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges, they escape, and they make their way back to where the trap is being made. They're like, they dug a big hole outside the wall. And somehow, they captured King Kong. They put a bunch of knockout gas, and Kong falls into it and just passes out right away. That actually is a cool shot where his arm comes out of the fog and then goes back down. And then all the natives come out of the bushes and they're like, oh, holy shit, Kong's gone. Which I thought was a happy moment, but then Jeff Bridges makes you feel guilty about it in a scene coming up.
Yeah.
They somehow found a giant ship. They get access to a giant ship, which has
They find another giant thing later on, conveniently, too, for them.
Yeah. And they find, like, it has the biggest cargo hold I've ever seen in a ship. It's gigantic.
I want to talk about the bars of that, too.
Yeah.
Why are they so large? He could stick his hand up in there.
I know.
Like, was the whole point because they just want Jessica to fall down? Like,
yeah. And we saw he's very strong. He broke the wall that the natives built for him, which I guess proves walls don't work. I mean, as some people would argue differently. I'm not here to argue
goodness.
that. Okay, so while he's being imprisoned, the oil guy's like, guys, Dwan, I'm going to make you a star. We're going to go coast to coast with Kong, sponsored by Petrox Oil. And he's like, you two should get married, and it could be like a big part of the story. And Jeff Bridges is like, it's like too early. And she's like, what do you think? And he's like, too early. But then Jeff Bridges is like, yeah, because the girl was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. And he's like, that ape tried to rape you. He's evil. And he's like, ask the natives
he like
there.
said it like multiple times too. It wasn't even just like kind of like he said it once.
Yeah.
He's like, no. He tried to rape you.
Yeah. And he's like, ask the natives. And Jeff Bridges is like, oh, the natives are going to be miserable. We took away their god.
Yeah, they're going to be drunks in a year.
Yeah, he's like, in a few weeks, they'll be burnout drunks. I'm like, or they'll be happy that they can use the rest of the island
and not sacrifice their women.
Yeah, not have to sacrifice their women and actually have like a generation of like children that like maybe things just me. Maybe things are going to get better for him, especially in this version where there's no other giant monsters except maybe a snake.
Dead. It's dead now.
And it's dead. You get 2 for 1. Those natives are going to be really happy. So I thought that was pretty offensive. I'm like, I don't know about that, dude. So Jeff Bridges gets his wish. Jessica Lange goes back to his cabin, and then he gets Kong blocked. Get it? Kong blocked. It's like cock blocked, but by King Kong. So King Kong throws a fit. King Kong throws a fit. And by the way, so Kong's cargo hold, apparently on the other side of the wall are like the crew quarters where they sleep, because that guy gets knocked off the wall, and then all the important equipment for the ship must be on the other side because it all starts breaking.
I also want to point out that the whole scene with Jeff and Jessica, they're like about to get it on, but her mind was on Kong.
It was.
That's what all she was like, yeah, I'll be right back. And then she went to go look for him and it was like checking on him.
Yeah. And then she goes into his cage to calm him down.
Is she actually like trying to get freaky with this giant?
Everyone's trying to fuck each other.
What's going on? Why is everybody so horny?
Jeff Bridges wants to fuck Jessica Lange. Jessica Lange wants to fuck King Kong. The oil guy wants to fuck Mother Nature and get that oil. I don't know. Dino De Laurentiis probably wanted to fuck any girl who was working on the movie. That priest wanted to fuck that entire island. He could not stop shaking his hips.
Oh my god.
So she finally like calms him down. She's like, why are you waking up all these people? You're being an asshole.
Yeah. Like, hey, like you're being
as
too
if
loud.
Kong could understand her. So the day of the show, Jeff Bridges is like, I don't want to be in the show. And he's like, you signed a contract. He's like, sue me.
Yeah.
I don't care. And he's like, Jessica Lange, come with me. We'll be in love together. And she's like, And he gets mad at her for being a woman who wants to be be employed. He frowns on that. He's not having any of that. He's like, woman with a job?
Oh my
It's
God.
1976 and I will not stand for that. That is what Jeff Bridges says. That's an exact quote. Because, he's such a dick. He's like, I know this is your dream job, but I'm about to be poor and sued. Do you want to go around the country and talk about apes? It's like, not really. The show starts and they reveal Kong to the public.
Where did they get that giant crown?
I mean, they made it.
How did they make that so fast? There's no way.
Well, we don't know the passage of time. Yeah, so first he's in a giant gas pump, which is just cloth. Then they pull it up and he's in a giant cage wearing a crown. Now, the sizes of the cage and the crown change.
They do.
Because we get to see the full-size Kong animatronic, which, here you go, guys. This is everything it can do.
Dude, it was so bad. It was very distracting, too.
And they cut back and forth. So the animatronic Kong has these big, broad shoulders. And then it will cut to the Kong in the suit, and it's like clear, and the cage is smaller, and he's more animated. It's so bad. And then he breaks out right away. He sees Jessica Lange.
What was it? He was like, oh, the bad guy was like, oh, yeah, like, this was made in New York or whatever it was. He said, and he was like, they're not going to break.
Yeah, but I mean, that was also in the original, where they're like, it's made out of chrome steel, it'll be fine, and it breaks out.
And he's just like...
He just rips it apart. And I love, it's the worst cut ever. So Kong is ripping the cage, and then it cuts to the animatronic Kong with the cage, and it's just going, and then it gets pretty violent. He's just full on stepping on people. He kills Oil Guy. Apparently, he was gonna live. They wanted that character to live because the director in the original lived. And there was gonna be a setup for a sequel and everything, but apparently test audiences were kind of mad that he didn't get killed.
Oh.
So they worked that in where he gets stepped on. The animatronic Kong is one of the worst things
It's really
I've
bad.
ever seen. Apparently, I think they did take it on tour to promote the movie, so they got some use out of it, because it looks like shit in this movie.
It's so bad.
They tried.
Yeah, like, there's an attempt, but it was too stiff.
Look, other movies did it better at Jurassic Park, probably learned from the mistakes of this movie. Kong going through the city. It reminded me of the Universal Studios ride, the old one. I loved that ride.
I never got to go on that, but I got to go on the Jaws one at least.
The Jaws one wasn't as good. Jaws one was fun.
I love the Jaws one.
The Jaws one is fun if you love Jaws, but it's not as good as the King Kong one. The King Kong ride was awesome. So you would go through the city on a tram car.
I've seen YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah, and it was now that was an animatronic Kong that looked fucking great. It was awesome. He would explode out of a building, and then he was on a bridge at the end. It was so cool. And I think one of the reasons I liked that ride is because I liked this movie growing up, and I like both of them for that reason. So it was cool seeing Kong just walk around the city. I am sad they took down the King Kong ride, although the Mummy roller coaster is pretty good.
I have never had so much fun on a ride in Universal
Then the Mummy roller coaster?
Oh my god.
It's pretty good. I would have preferred King Kong, but I'm at least it was replaced with something awesome.
Oh my god. I hope they never get rid of that, though.
Kong walks into some power lines. And unlike his Toho counterpart, he does not get electrical power. If you guys you can listen to our King Kong vs. Godzilla episode at castzilla.com. Castzilla versus the Pod Monster. Remember, that's a podcast we're on. Castzilla is for the website, but the show's called Castzilla. And remember, you guys, not all of you watch on Fridays or download on Fridays, and we need to get those numbers up, all right? Okay? And then they go into an empty bar. And they're talking about...
Buy me a drink. Come on, buy me a drink.
Oh, okay, wait. Before that, he destroys a train that they were on. So she survived 2 incidences. By the way, I thought it was really mean where he finds the other blonde girl, but it's not her, so he just tosses her.
Yeet.
So she survives 2 things, and her first thing is wow, I really could go for a I mean, I probably could too, but I want to get away first.
I think I'd want to leave that area completely. Okay, we're in New York. Take me to Delaware.
So, Jeff Bridges gets a revelation, which I'll get to in a second. He goes to call the military and let them know. And then Jessica Lange, she's hanging out in the bar, and then Kong's hand
He
comes
just somehow finds her.
I guess he smelled her and found her, but like the hand comes in, he's on the other side of the window, and I don't think it actually works technically, and he's doing the pervy like, yee. And then she doesn't even run away. She's like, she like falls into the hand. I'm like, no, you could have gotten away from that easily.
Look, she had to pretend for Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I totally don't want this, but I definitely do.
Yeah. So then Kong takes her, and then Jeff Bridges knows where he's going because there's this thing in New York that looks like the mountains from his native island. And I just want to say the end. Everyone knows the ending of the original Kong. The ending of this movie was unforgettable. I'll never forget the end of this movie when it takes place at the World Trade Center because they were newer at the time and they wanted to one-up the Empire State Building. Why are you giving me that look? Did you not think this movie was unforgettable? That it was a very unforgettable ending? Did you forget the end of this movie?
I know what you're doing.
The Twin Towers resemble the mountains on his island, which he did not climb, but for some reason he decides he wants to climb the World Trade Center. Whatever. Because he has to climb a building. This Kong, out of all the Kongs I've seen, the Kong Skull Island Kong, we haven't really seen him climb a lot of things, so I can't say anything yet, because he's kind of too big to climb anything. This Kong is the worst looking climbing Kong I've ever seen. It looks so terrible. He's like, because the suit's not very mobile, and it's like poorly blue screened. So he climbs up the building, and Jeff Bridges breaks into the World Trade Center. And the World Trade Center stuff looks great because they filmed some of it was on location, and then they built like the lower parts on a set, and they had miniatures, and I think it all blends together pretty well. So yeah, Jeff Bridges made like an agreement with the military. He's like, "Don't kill him, just capture him, and then I'll tell you where he is." So you think they're going to honor that because Kong, before he climbs, he's staring at the military, and they all have their guns at him, and then none of them shoot. And it's like, wow, I feel like you could solve this problem pretty easily right now. But I guess they're afraid of hurting the girl, which, I mean, an ape that can kill most of the people in the city in one chick, I know what I'm doing. I'm pulling the trigger. So you think the military's going to honor that. But then Kong gets to the top, and then it turns out the military was not going to honor that, and they want to kill him. It's like, well, why didn't they just shoot him when they had the chance? It's weird. You know what? You know what else is weird? I understand Jeff Bridges wants Kong to live, but then like the military come up, the army guys, and they have the flamethrower. Yeah. Yeah, and then Kong does that awesome jump to the other building. Where he looks like he's flying.
I like when he takes whatever the heck he picked up that he threw at the dude with the flamethrower and it explodes.
Yes.
And Jeff Bridges is just like, yeah, kill them all. And I'm like,
he's celebrating the death of like army guys. And I'm like, that's really mean. He goes, yeah, you dirty sons of bastards. I'm like, like, what the fuck, Jeff Bridges? Like, holy shit. I'm like, those guys just died trying to defend
violently.
Yeah, very violently. So I thought that was pretty brutal. And then the helicopters show up because instead of planes, they do helicopters, and they have the miniguns on the outside. And this is the most violent Kong death ever.
There was so much blood.
And you know what? This has been a pretty bloodless movie, except for the snake, but that was very brief. So I remember being as a kid, because the original Kong, even if he is bleeding, it's black and white, it's still sad. But I remember being as a kid watching this for the first time, being like, oh my God, because blood is just squirting out of him.
It's just, he's just drenched.
And he's just drenched.
He literally turns red.
And it's like, holy shit, this is brutal. And the reason it's like that is because Dino De Laurentiis, he wanted a tragic ending. And there's actually a pretty famous quote from him. No one cried when Jaws died. But when the monkey dies, people are gonna cry. Intellectuals are gonna love a Kong. Even film buffs who love the first Kong are gonna love ours. Why? Because I don't give a crap. I don't understand the last part of that. But basically, he wanted a really sad ending. And the only way you can think of that is to have just mountains of blood come out of Kong.
He gets shot multiple times.
Yes.
Blood everywhere. And then he falls off the building.
Stop. In hand.
and somehow doesn't just splatter
Yeah.
and like.
Instead, you just get to hear the thump, 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 thump.
Yes, which the American Godzilla stole. The Matthew Broderick American Godzilla, because when they
Oh, yeah!
when they kill Godzilla in that,
yeah!
they do the American, they do the heartbeat.
And then the eye oh,
Yeah. So then Kong just dies horribly. Everyone's sad, and then the credits just play over his corpse while everyone's just taking pictures
and then,
of it.
what was it? Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange are like trying to like get to each other, but everybody's crowding around
Yeah.
her like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Clearly, I'm okay. Get away from me."
So yeah, what did you think of this King Kong?
I really feel like if this was not rated what it was rated,
What was it rated?
I think it was PG-13.
This is before PG-13
Yeah?
rating, so
Well,
it might have been PG.
Okay.
And since it was an ape, they didn't care.
It felt like a porn to me, majority of the time, because like, oh my god.
So Italian producers, as I'm learning from the show, and
Yeah, thanks Tony.
yeah, Italian producers, not Dino. Dino was pretty well respected. He made some shit, but he made some good stuff too. I'm finding out that there's some movies that were made as porns, but then they cut the porn out and released them in different territories as just normal movies. This feels like that. If this was like a schlocky, like something, not even Kong, just a King Kong ripoff, I feel
Some
like
type of like monster thing.
I feel like there would have been sex everywhere, and then when it came to America, an American distributor would have been like, let's cut out all the sex. This is what it feels like. It is a very sexual movie. It's more sexual than a King Kong movie has any right to be. But I kind of love it.
I did love it too. I was just very uncomfortable watching a lot of scenes.
I loved it as a kid because it's King Kong and it's in color and the effects were pretty decent.
I thought just like really like big monster movies.
Yeah. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you have a show where you talk about the monster?
Stop plugging it! You said it 2 times already. Speaking of that, where's our shirts?
Oh yeah, I gotta make shirts for that. They might be, no, they're not gonna be done by the time this happens.
Terrible.
Yeah, so I used to really, really love it. And then the Peter Jackson one came out, and I went to rewatch this one. I'm like, oh wow, this one sucks. This one's actually a big piece of shit. I'm like, what the hell? There were no dinosaurs. It's really, really bad. Now, I've watched it again. In HD for the first time, thanks to you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
I changed your name, by the way, on my HBO account.
I didn't have it. I did notice that you had a couple people on your account. One was Don Trump. I didn't know you knew.
Why are you the way that you are? Why?
Why did you change my name?
You should see what it is now.
Oh God. Anyway, I watched it in HD on my big screen TV, and like I guess for years I was just watching this on tape or like 4x3 on small TVs. Watching the big screen, I'm like, oh wow, this movie actually looks pretty damn good.
Yeah, it actually holds up.
It holds up. I mean, any effects that are dated would have looked good at the time. Again, this is right before Star Wars and Superman in the 80s. And it probably would have looked better if it came out in the 80s, but as we will find out in the future, that's not the case. So yeah, I think it's a really good time. It's definitely not the best King Kong movie. It's definitely not the worst.
Watch it for Jessica and Jeff.
Jessica Lange
hell yeah.
is so fucking hot in this
Such a
movie.
babe. She's such a babe.
Yeah.
Again, still, her and Jessica, what up? Hi, if you're watching this.
I wanted to mention earlier. So I thought it was interesting that first Kong 30s, this Kong 70s, we're ignoring Toho Kong. The remake of Kong was in the 30s, and then Kong Skull Island was in the 70s. So I thought it would be really cool if the Brie Larson character from Kong Skull Island is in Kong vs. Godzilla and it's played by Jessica Lange, because the age would kind of work. But then I remembered, no one gives a shit about Brie Larson's character or any of the characters in Kong Skull Island. And that's a movie I like, but the characters are very forgettable. So that idea doesn't matter.
I kind of like forgot they exist. I know Tom Hiddleston's in it.
In the new one?
It's Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston.
Oh, yeah, in Kong Skull Island. Yeah, we saw that together.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah. Well, because in Godzilla King of the Monsters, Miles Dyson from Terminator 2, he's the older version of one of the guys in Kong Skull Island. So it's like, that'd be cool if they bring Jessica Lange to be the older Brie Larson character. But then Jessica Lange would have to act poorly to match Brie Larson. I like Brie Larson. I don't know what happened. After Kong Skull, after she won her Oscar, she just started sucking in movies. I don't understand what happened.
I look at her in Scott Pilgrim,
Yeah.
and then I look at her in Captain Marvel. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Couldn't even remember the name.
I was like, wait, that's superhero thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
She's
Like,
been,
is it the script? Because I know, like, with Kristen Stewart, like, Kristen Stewart's good in good movies, but then, like, things like Twilight and other things, I'm kind of like, so
I don't
is
know.
it just
maybe
what
I'm not
they're
watching.
given?
Maybe I'm not watching the smaller indie movies she's in. Maybe she's better in those. Why the hell are we talking about Brie Larson? Anyway, everyone just turned the channel off as soon as I said Brie Larson. But then you forgot Captain Marvel's name, so they probably turned it back on.
Yeah, they were like, oh yeah, that woman forgot.
Wait, there's a woman not defending Brie Larson? What's going on here? Yeah, so I would say definitely check this one out if you have HBO Max. I'll give you Johanna's HBO Max account. You can make a
No.
funny name on it.
No.
Definitely check it
Changing
out.
my password.
And then what I like about this movie is that it has a very definitive ending. Kong gets shot. He falls. He plummets to his death.
Totally dead.
His heart stops.
He's done.
So of course,
Dunzo.
of course, 10 years later, they got the same director back to do King Kong Lives, which we'll do another time. Spoiler, it's not very good, and it's very hard to find.
Also, spoiler, he lives.
He lives. King Kong lives, and he's not alone. Johanna, there's a lady Kong.
I know. No,
Ask me if she has tits.
Does she have to?
She has big Kong tits. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. And, Jesus Christ, why did you make me drink whiskey before? I didn't even have that much. Oh my God, smoke bomb! What? Hello, Johanna.
Hi, Tony.
Welcome back to the show, talking about tapes.
Hello.
And welcome back from your trip. You went to DC for some reason. I forget why you went out there, but I hope you had a good time out there.
It was a great time.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it was great. So some things have changed here. Well, our mics look like the mics we shot with last time.
Yes.
We did get these mechanical arms with these nicer mics, but they were way too goddamn big. I think Newt's face was covered in the wide shot most of the time in the last episode. So
Is that a problem, though?
yeah, we're getting smaller arms so we can use the nice mics. So for this episode, we're back here. Some other things have changed. You might have noticed we are no longer shooting on the, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera.
I don't know what any of this means.
Okay, so this is what we've been shooting the show on.
Okay.
Shoots in 4K. This is a great camera. This camera is awesome. It was not meant for this kind of show. For one,
Okay.
the lenses are prime, so that means they're all manual. And I don't know if you know this, but we don't have a crew. So I had to be.
We have that dummy over there.
We have a dummy over there. So we had to be careful with the focus, but if we like moved back or something, we would go out of focus. There was a couple episodes
Okay.
where me or Newt went out of focus, so we're still gonna use these for like skits or just stuff that happens, not skits. What is this? This is a real show.
Stuff like skits.
Yeah, we're gonna use this for other things, more cinematic stuff. So in the meantime, we are shooting on hold on. Canon XA45 cameras. So we still have 4K footage. The lenses aren't as nice, but the file sizes are a lot smaller, because here's a problem I ran into. The files in that camera are very, very big, to the point I couldn't fit them on a terabyte hard drive to bring them home to edit. So I had to spend a few weekends here editing the goddamn show. So
Sounds like a you problem.
yeah, slightly less resolution cameras, but it will help us in the end. I don't think anyone's really going to care, because it's still 4K. It's still a 3-camera setup. I think they look great. Yeah, the problem is I don't know how I'm going to afford this, because I went through my stimulus check pretty fast.
Well, Tony,
Yeah.
I have a solution for you.
Oh, okay.
When I went to DC, I brought back some stuff.
Oh, you brought back some stuff from DC. That's great. Like souvenirs or like...
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. What's this? You have some kind of package here. These are like... Oh, these look like opened envelopes. I assume those are like historical envelopes?
Yes, they are.
Wow, I can't wait to read them and see what they are. Police hat. Did you buy like a costume hat?
Yeah, there's just, so much merchandise you can buy now in the stores.
Huh, okay. Yeah, let's see. You have a blank VHS tape here. I'm not sure what that's all about. What's going on here? This looks like a prop alien head.
It's my favorite, yeah.
In a spaceman helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Bizarre. Oh, we got some film in here. Some old film. Let me see. What is this? This looks like a grassy knoll. I'm not sure why there's a film strip of a grassy knoll. God, this is fucking just endless here. Oh, we got another film strip. This looks like...
It's great.
You know what? I think this might be... And I don't know why this is in DC. This looks like a deleted scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey, because it's the moon. Mm-hmm. But I can see Stanley Kubrick in the shot. I don't remember the shot in the movie, so thanks.
Very rare deleted scene.
Yeah, so thanks for this, and thanks for what I assume is a replica Revolutionary War flag.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, it looks like you just pulled it out of some historical building. That's crazy. So yeah, stay tuned. Maybe I'll sell some of the stuff in this box Johanna brought. That's great.
You're welcome, Tony.
Thank you. You know what's not great? King Kong Lives.
Why do you make me watch this stuff?
So we should probably mention we have a podcast that we do together.
Yes, we do.
Castilla versus the Pod Monster. Video versions are now on their own YouTube channel.
Yep.
Because while people really love that show, they don't love it as much as this show.
Yeah.
And the low views were hurting the growth of this show. But we moved it to its own channel. I mean, you should be listening on podcast apps anyway, so it still exists. We'll link to the description. So yeah, we tend to mostly do Toho stuff. But on this show, we decided to dip into some good old-fashioned American giant monsters, and we did the 76 King Kong, which I think we both agreed was not a great movie, but it was very enjoyable.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not great.
Yes, and Jessica Lange was very, very attractive.
Such a babe. Such a babe.
So 10 years later, they decided to make a sequel, King Kong Lives, and I think we both talked in the last one that he had a pretty definitive death. I don't know how you live that one.
There was so much blood.
So I have it here. Dino De Laurentiis, the producer,
Yep.
He wanted to make a King Kong sequel. He even said, and this is bizarre because I don't know what movie he's referencing. He said Steve McQueen made and imagine like a super Italian voice. I don't feel like doing the Italian voice. Steve McQueen made a picture in which he died at the end. But then they made another picture with Steve McQueen. Many stars die at the end of a picture, then go on to the next picture. Kong is a star. We're going to have a new story, a new Kong. It's a very confusing sentence.
So, did he want to do like a brand new Kong, like a new ape? Or just new movie?
I don't know. I really don't know. But the process to making the sequel is very, very hard because there's a lot of rights issues over who owns Kong. And I will recommend our good friend James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd. He reviewed both of these movies a few years ago, and there's a section in that review where he talks about the legal battle that went on.
Wasn't it something with like Paramount?
Universal claimed to own it. Paramount claimed to own it. Universal and Paramount were going to make them at the same time. The creator owned it, and then they argued, is it in public domain? It was a shit show from what I could tell. His video explains it perfectly, so go check that out. But yeah, so John Gillerman's back, the director. He wanted to make a movie called Taipan with Sean Connery. This movie ended up getting made, and we'll mention that at the end of the episode. It ended up getting made not with Sean Connery or this director. But yeah, they brought him back for King Kong Lives. And they tried to convince Dino De Laurentiis that there should be a Lady Kong, and he seemed to not be into it, so they explained it to him. It's hard enough to accept that there's a King Kong that's been around for 50 years, he's become a pop culture hero. No. Oh, and then Dino De Laurentiis says, no one is going to believe a female ape. And the writer said, Dino, he had to have had a mother. And Dino said, by God, you're right. I never thought of that. There can be a female. So Dino De Laurentiis just thought Kong's come out of thin air, I guess. He was big into intelligent design. They just magically just appear.
It's like a chicken and the egg story. Like,
So anyway, let's get into this movie.
yay.
It opens up with the unforgettable ending of the previous movie, which we will never forget the ending of that
No.
previous movie. But it also like causes a problem because it's like he was shot thousands of times and then fell
There
off
was
the World Trade
blood
Center.
everywhere.
And he fell off the World Trade Center. Like, you're not getting up from that. But apparently, he was alive. Even though I think we heard his heart die, but they kept him. So the military and the scientists and stuff that were all trying to kill him because he was murdering people. When he finally died, they were like, "Well, we got to keep him alive."
For some reason.
This isn't like when like a murderer gets shot and they keep him alive so he could stand trial. This is a giant ape. You just let the thing die. But Linda Hamilton is the star of this one as Lady Doctor. I don't know her name.
I don't remember. This was so hard to get through. I don't remember anybody's name.
So Linda Hamilton's in it. She's the star of the film. And I will say, like, toward the end of the film, I'll get back to it. She's very different than the usual kind of woman that's in these movies. So that's a plus.
She still seemed bored as hell.
Well, she was bored as hell, but the way the character's written, it's not like a damsel in distress. You know what I mean?
Still.
Yeah.
So 2 years prior, she was in The Terminator.
Yeah.
This is where you go to?
Yeah, well, apparently she saw how good it did for Jessica Lange, and unfortunately, it did not have the same effect on her. So they want to give Kong a mechanical heart, but he won't survive the surgery unless he gets a blood transfusion. Now, we still can't figure out, and I don't think anyone ever explains in this movie, why are they keeping King Kong alive? What is the point of keeping King Kong alive?
Like, I don't even understand as like a scientific point, because if they want to study a big ape, they have the woman.
Well, we'll get to that.
Well, the
Well, this
female.
is before that.
Still.
But it's at no point do they say, hey, we want to return him to his island and study him. It seems like they just want to bring him back to life and just lock him up. I don't know. It just seems really bizarre.
Plot.
Yeah. So we cut to Borneo. And there's this guy, John Mitchell is the character name, I think. And he finds Lady Kong, not Queen Kong, which I have a copy of somewhere. That is a parody of King Kong from the 70s, I believe. That's, well, I don't want to say it's funny, but I think the
I
tagline...
thought you were going to say porn.
No, but the tagline of the movie, I think, is like, it's like her time of the month again or something like that. I mean, something like that. But Queen Kong, it's like an airplane style comedy. It's like, it's a very spoof movie. So, but I guess they couldn't say Queen Kong, so this is Lady Kong. And you can't be confused with regular Kong. They knew people would get confused. So what they did is they made her brown and gave her Kong tits.
No, she's red.
Or red.
It's like red. But yeah,
She has Kong tits. They literally just put Kong tits on the male Kong suit.
So gorillas do have like
I know,
a bit
I
of a
know.
but like they were so distracting.
They were, because it's literally like, it seems like they made two Kong suits and they're like, oh, one's a woman. Give it.
Slap some saggy boobies on
Yeah,
there.
because they are like saggy. They look like they were put
They're
on
like
after the.
deflated. Good God.
I couldn't. All right, so I've only ever seen this like maybe once or twice as a kid. And I forgot a lot of this movie, so seeing the Kong tits, I was
Understandable.
like, oh no. Oh no.
The moment I saw that, I literally sat there like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. By the way, I love the previous movie. It's like, yes, this beast lives on an island surrounded by fog. You can't find it anywhere. It's like, oh yeah, there's another one in Borneo. No one ever brought it up before. They just hang around in Borneo, I guess. But a bunch of natives help John Mitchell and they like shoot darts into it, knocks it out. They end up calling him. John Mitchell is like trying to sell this ape. And the scientists call them. They're like, we got to make an offer on this because we're going to lose it.
Yeah.
And Linda Hamilton's like, we probably shouldn't bring a female ape here. It's probably going to excite him too much. And they're like, well, where else are we going to get the blood for this thing? So the university ignores her and they buy Lady Kong. Everything, it sounds like I'm making up the plot to a fake movie. It really does.
It really does.
if someone said, "Hey, Tony, come up with a plot to a sequel to Kong 76," I'd be like, there's a Lady Kong, and they gotta put a new heart in him. It doesn't sound real. So apparently both Kongs have the trait of falling in love with attractive people. Lady Kong, well, I mean, the movie says the guy's attractive. Lady Kong is in love. Yeah, Lady Kong has a crush on the John Mitchell character. Apparently, you do not have the same taste as a giant gorilla. Apparently,
Thank God.
but I like that both Kongs can be perverts, regardless of gender. They're both perverts.
Well, I mean, at least like he's not like. Well, she's not like blowing on him and like trying to rip his clothes off.
So this part is shocking. They bring Lady Kong to the States, and there are so many reporters there. Do they all forget what happened in the previous movie?
You just see her giant feet in the background. They're all like crowding around, and it's like, can you not?
So it looks like they built full-size Kongs, but they used them a lot. The full size, they're like, Kong's gonna be laying down in a coma in this scene.
Better than the blue screen.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like the previous movie when they had the full-size Kong and they try to pass it off, it's like they're like, yes, we'll use the full-size Kong, but when it's laying down and sleeping. That was, look, this movie doesn't make a lot of smart decisions. That was a smart decision on their part. But why are the reporters so eager to get so close to the thing? Do they all forget the other one just broke out?
Apparently. I mean, again, like going to Godzilla stuff, how they all just crowd around
Yeah,
and like,
just-
nothing will happen to me.
Oh, it's a giant egg. It's like, yeah, like Mothra, we should probably get away from it.
Just take it easy. You are dealing with a lady.
They start to do the surgery.
Yeah.
And it goes on for like 20 minutes.
It's so long.
It's
I don't need to see you bringing all the tubes over for the blood transfusion.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just little clips. Like, that's all you had to do.
There's a lot of padding in this.
Oh my God.
So they're bringing the heart, and then it almost falls, and they like cut his heart out, and it's...
And then doesn't he like start like bleeding everywhere? So like right before they lower his heart in or whatever, they
Yeah.
start like panicking, like, like drain
Yeah.
the blood or something. I forget.
But it's like, so are we supposed to... It's hard to get invested in it and be like, oh, I hope Kong lives. It's like, he's a murderer. Like, what? And none of these characters have any relations. It's not like Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges are there.
Like suddenly everybody's like, yeah, we love Kong, and it's just like, who are you? Did you not see what he just did prior?
No, like Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges, maybe, but everyone else, they're like, yeah, that big gorilla that like crashed that train and threw that chick. Like, no, this Kong is scary. No one wants him to live. But he does live. And
King Kong lives.
King Kong lives. There's a big celebration, and I don't know if you caught this. So a lot of people are celebrating, waving flags, and then there's a
Confederate flag?
There's a little person of color, boy, and he's waving a Confederate flag, and I'm like, huh. I'm like, that wouldn't...
Oh no, I saw that right away, and I was like...
So I think the idea was, and how people probably justify the flag back then, is like, yeah, it's a symbol of like hating authority and the government, and it's like, maybe, but regardless, it is very, it's very jarring.
No.
Cut to the famous country song, Country for Life.
Country for life, yeah, yo. Doing it like Bo and Duke, going to Deuce a Hazard, yeah, it's true. Yeah, hitting these haters though, like with this legendary flow, but they keep coming back for more.
Kong wakes up, and he can smell the female ape, I guess.
He's like ripping out the tubes, and then he's like trying to jump up on the bars. He's
Yeah.
also like looking at the moon going like, ugh.
Yeah, so his first thought after 10 years in a coma, by the way, he doesn't have atrophy, apparently. His first thought is like, I gotta get laid. I gotta get laid.
Gotta
It's
get
like,
that wop.
Yeah. Was there an Italian gentleman in this? That was a very offensive term, Johanna. Anyway.
I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, so they Johanna, they had 10 years to figure out how to restrain Kong. They had 10 years. He wakes up and just breaks the chains right away. He just breaks them right the fuck away.
Also, I like how there's like no scar or anything on his chest.
Yeah,
type
he's
of
just totally fine. He's just totally fine.
Yeah, they put the mechanical heart in. He's good. He's good to go. Yeah.
I love the one-
recovery time.
The one goes, the other monkey's gone ape shit. It's like, well, which one is it, monkey or ape? You gotta decide which one it is. Kong shows up, and he saves Lady Kong. It's so fucking... All right, so you guys don't understand. And maybe it's not showing well because it's a horrible VHS footage. Like, at no point, I don't know if maybe the movie was able to, like, make you suspend your disbelief. But for me, watching this movie, at no point did I think, oh, these are two giant gorillas. The entire time, I'm like, these are two men in ape suits pretending to be in love.
Yeah.
Not like, these are clearly two stuntmen, and I'm imagining the director be like, okay, smile at each other, like, just hold each other.
My favorite was when Kong picked up the snake, and it scared Lady Kong because girls don't like icky creatures.
Yes.
Gotta make sure that's a girl thing.
Yes, giant regular gorillas would probably throw the goddamn snake and beat the shit out of it. So I have it in here. We just made fun of Kong, but the Kong suits are terrible. All the other effects at this point in the movie have not been terrible.
They're like okay.
They're okay.
Also, the suits look like something I would buy at like Party City.
They don't look anywhere near as good as the previous movie suit.
Yeah, so like the other one, it isn't like the most like wonderful thing ever, or whatever. But like it was still pretty good.
Keep in mind.
At this point in this year, you've had things like Star Wars that came out that looks thousands of leagues better.
Yeah. We should point out, we watched a VHS rip of this. I assume you watched it on your big screen at home. I watched it on the 82 or 84 inch.
I watched it on my computer screen.
Oh, okay. So maybe we're not watching like the latest Blu-ray quality. Maybe it looks much better. Maybe it's the quality of the VHS we have that makes the effects look bad. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt.
No. Absolutely not. No.
Okay, so
No.
The army is hunting Kong, and Hamilton and Mitchell, I forget the actor's name, so I think I'm saying his character's name. They're trying to find them first. And I take back everything I said about the effects in the previous scene. The Kong's on a miniature set. It looks like Power Rangers.
It's so bad.
And like the whole time it wants you to be like, look how romantic they are. By the way, I don't know if I can get into gorillas being romantic.
I honest to God, so obviously, like, spoilers, you know, they do end up frickin'. I'm actually 1,000 I'm like so shocked they didn't actually show it. Or at least like alluding to like someone's about to go down.
They probably could have, because have you ever seen gorillas have sex?
Yes.
It's really bland. Like, the guy just gets back and he's like, oh, and then they're done. It's like, oh.
That reminded me of the turtle.
Turtles seem to be enjoying it. It's like, who's that? Bruno Mars had that song, like, bang, bang, like gorillas. And someone actually, I think someone cut that song to actual gorilla sex in some video. And, like, the gorillas just seem like they're like, it's so like, okay, I am inserting, I am done, I'm going to leave now. Like, it doesn't seem passionate or anything.
The internet has too much time.
But yeah, so it looks like Power Rangers. The whole miniature set looks
It's like
awful.
Power Rangers is better.
Huh?
Power Rangers is at least better.
Yeah, probably.
Probably yes.
And again, by the way, the miniature sets, like, they just look like guys in gorilla suits. And the miniatures, they look so bad. I'm like, oh, these are guys in gorilla suits on like a toy set. Like this, I'm never immersed in the effect. And like, I can't believe how much better the 70s one was, because we thought some of the effects in that were dodgy, but
the blue
so
screen,
much better.
The blue screen, and like, I know I made fun of the one scene where like, what was it? Kong was like reaching down or whatever it was when Jeff Bridges was like hiding in the rock.
I mean, there's some
and
dodgy.
You can clearly see like the rock move, and it doesn't edit him out.
Yeah.
Like, I forgive all that stuff looking at this now.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
So Linda Hamilton and the other guy, they're trying to find him, and they walk across a rickety bridge.
Were they supposed to do like a romantic thing with them with this? Like, is that what they were going with? Like, oh.
Yeah, like he saves her, and I guess she's in love with him now.
like-
This feels like there's a lot of this movie that feels like padding, and this feels like padding.
Really?
I'm like, do we need the the bridge. I'm falling
Why
off
did
the
we
bridge.
need this song?
It's not even like the rehashing Kong breaking the bridge. It's like, oh, I'm on a rickety bridge, and oh no.
Why did we need the scenes with Kong and Lady Kong to last that long?
I guess
we're
we're
talking about padding.
I guess we're supposed to care about their relationship. Yeah, so he saves her, and it's like, what? And by the way, who builds a bridge at the very end of a waterfall?
They wanted the view or something. I don't know. Plot. I
was just gonna say-
there's no excuse.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, I probably wouldn't build a bridge at the end of a waterfall. I'd probably build it further back and put a net down in case someone fell. Yeah, so they find the Kongs. And like the Mitchell guy is like, if we get them, we can send them back to Borneo or Kong Island. And this is where my brain turned on. I was like, I wonder how the natives are doing on Skull Island. Like, because Jeff Bridges said they were going to be like drunk assholes, and like we never revisited. I wanted to see if Linda Hamilton would be like, no, Jeff Bridges was right. They're all drunks now. He would be like, who's Jeff Bridges? I still think it was mean Jeff Bridges said that. Because go back and watch our King Kong 76 video. Like, Jeff Bridges is like, we took Kong away from them. Those natives, they're going to be all drunks.
Yeah, because we took away, like...
We took away their god. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure they lived in fear and they're happy it's gone.
We don't have to sacrifice our women anymore.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I think this is a great... I would be getting drunk after that. I'd be like, hell yeah!
Yeah, I think it's a celebratory drunk. So yeah, we find out that the Kongs aren't the only horny ones. Linda Hamilton, who's hated the guy character from the beginning, is now horny. And she's like, come into my sleeping bag.
You know what? Brings up another point of the dude.
Yeah.
Only wanted to sell Lady Kong in the beginning, wanted
Yeah.
to make money. Now all of a sudden he cares about her and her well-being and wants her to be okay.
Also,
It's just like,
I want to point out, like, they didn't get horny until they realized the Kongs were going to fuck, and they gave them their privacy, and then Linda Hamilton's like, I'm kind of turned on now. It's like, wait, what? What, did the pheromones from Lady Kong interact with your pheromone? Like, what the fuck is going on?
maybe she's turned on by gorillas doing the thing.
I don't think I've ever seen, like, two dogs humping and been like, huh, I suddenly want to have sex. Like, that's not how it works.
I would hope not. Oh my god.
It's weird, right? Linda Hamilton's like, oh, those giant murdering apes are going to have sex. I want to get laid right now.
I hated this movie. I hate this movie so much.
That ape, who I want to remind you guys, if you watched the previous movie, destroyed a train car, pulled out a woman, and just tossed her. Linda Hamilton is looking at that same ape being like, what a handsome guy. I need to kill. Okay, so they wake up and realize King Kong is gone. It's only Lady Kong that's there. And we get one frame of Linda Hamilton's tits.
Bless.
She gets out of the thing. It's so weird. Is the movie rated R? 1 second.
PG-13.
It's PG-13. This is why the MPAA sucks. Because they're always changing their mind, like what is and isn't allowed. So there's blood and gore in this, and a tit for a second. PG-13. You cannot get away with that these days. Anyway, so we see a tit for a second. And yeah, again, I can't get over how bad the miniatures and blue screen look. Kong is like climbing a mountain in the daytime.
It gets worse as it goes on, too.
It's like they ran out of money, and they ran out of money like as they were making more and more blue screen shots. You'd think they'd be like, hey, let's chill with some of this. Lady Kong is captured, and King Kong is not happy about this. But he gets attacked and he escapes in the river and he bumps his head on a rock and they all think he's dead. And the main army guy says, not even your King Kong could survive that. He was shot by helicopters and fell off the World Trade Center. And he survived that. The army guy should be like, for all we know, he's still alive. Let's just throw rockets into the river just to be safe.
Also, I like how just his heart was affected, not like his bones.
Yeah, it's really hit or miss, like what affects him or not. She's like, his heart. It's like, yeah, he's probably gonna bleed out. He's shot and bleeding everywhere. But it's like if you saw me fall off the roof of this building after getting shot a million times.
Wish.
I fell.
I wish.
And then I survived. And then like a year later, I like fall off a curb and scratch my knee, and you'd be like, "There's no way he's gonna survive that." It's like, hey, I fell off a building and I survived. Like, it's so weird. Because it's not like people don't know Kong's history. It should have been the most amazing thing to have ever happened in history. Like, he would know, like, oh, he fell off from a way higher thing and survived.
I hate this movie.
Yeah. So Lady Kong is held captive, and I can't stress enough how bad the blue screen is. And they decided to have 10,000 blue screen shots where characters are talking with Lady Kong in the back. And by the way, I think...
Again, it kept getting worse.
It's hard to tell in this version, but I think one of the problems is I think everything is in focus. It's not like they put a little blur on her in the back. They get so bad. So somehow Linda Hamilton gets a letter from the Justice Department where she's able to like visit. And Linda Hamilton has figured out that the apes are, not only can they smell each other, but they're psychic. She's like, she knows Kong's alive.
It's after they banged. They got that psychic link.
Is that a giant gorilla trait?
Don't know.
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I've ever had psychic links with anyone, so I don't know what.
Well, you're not a gorilla.
That's true. I'm not. Yes. So the Kong. So they're like, Kong is dead. He's so big. There's no way he can have enough protein to sustain his diet. What's he gonna eat? And then it cuts to Kong in the swamp. Fuck this movie. So he picks up a baby alligator. It is specifically a baby alligator. Its snout isn't grown enough yet.
Yeah.
And it wants us, the viewer, to think that this is a big alligator. This would be like if they wanted Kong to like fight a dog and they brought a puppy in. Like, we know the difference between a puppy and that's a baby alligator. And then they cut, because they wanted a reaction shot from the alligator for some goddamn reason. They cut to like an adult alligator, which looks nothing like the baby alligator. And the funniest part about this, as he's like breaking its head and he's putting them on a stick, they just cut to a frog reacting to everything. Just like so in this movie, there's just a frog that's like, it's a big gorilla.
Glad that wasn't me.
I don't even think the frog can comprehend what's going on. Like, oh, like when he breaks the alligator's neck, it cuts to the frog going. It's like, what the fuck?
Maybe it was supposed to be like a comedy thing. I don't know.
He's like putting them on like a stick, like a kebab. So, cut to however many months it takes for a Kong to have a baby. Months later, Linda Hamilton and the guy are now super in love. They're like super romantic for some reason. They find out Lady Kong is sad, and they think she's dying. But we as the viewer know like she's pregnant. Like it's really freaking out. You're not gonna put a Lady Kong in this movie and not deliver on her getting. But like it's not like deliver. Okay. That was a good one. Everyone clap for Johanna.
Thank you.
Clap. Damn it. Okay, so how has Kong gone unnoticed for this long?
Plot.
They can't do the end.
I can't even argue for it.
Because I was thinking about it, because he does need to eat a lot. He's gigantic. He would be
Also, where would he be hiding?
That's another good one. I mean, I guess they're in like a weird thing where they're in the South, but there's mountains everywhere. But he would be destroying the ecosystem of wherever he was. Like, it would be real easy to find him.
The army would have literally been brought in already.
They would be doing helicopter flights all the time. But it'd be like, hey guys, did you notice there's like a shocking lack of deer around? And like, hey, I noticed in the swamp, like a lot of these animals are overpopulating because all the alligators are gone. Should we maybe check the swamp? Like, it's like he couldn't go that unnoticed for that long. It's ridiculous.
I hate this movie.
And then I guess for some reason he shows up in Civilization. He interrupts like a couple that are like making out. The weirdest.
He's like a peeping Tom during that scene. He's just like, "Hey, they're about to get freaky. I remember when I got freaky. How you doing in there?" Hey.
So he shows up in this town, and then the town is like, it's all like rednecks, and the guy gets on a motorcycle. Then everyone else is getting into boats and trucks.
And then he like drives underneath Kong's legs.
And I'm like, all right, they're showing how cool this guy is because clearly they're gonna kill him, and then they don't.
Nothing happened.
Kong literally looks and goes, huh, and then walks away. It's like, what the fuck was the point of that?
Maybe he was just like, oh yeah, that was rad, dude. You can live. You can live. Only you, though.
And this part I thought was really unrealistic. There was like a bunch of hillbillies with like guns and stuff.
I hated this scene so much. You want to talk about padding?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of hillbillies that are like, we're gonna get them, blah, blah, blah. The military comes out, and they're like, you guys can't do that. Like, yes, we can. I thought it was really unrealistic that the military armed forces could not stop a roaming gang of hillbillies. I was like, what? In what world? What world? Did I ask you how your DC trip went, by the way? Are you crying?
It's great.
So the rednecks are camping out. They find Kong, and they set off some dynamite and they bury him in an avalanche. An avalanche that conveniently stops right where their camp starts.
And then he's like stuck up to here.
Yeah, so they had an excuse to use the full-size head, and I wanted to say they were smart by not showing the face of the full-size head, because obviously it would look bad. But whoever was in charge of the big head effect, they were like, the blue screen's gonna look a lot better. And I imagine that person sat in the theater going, oh my god, it looks so much worse than what we did. So yeah, they're like torturing Kong.
They give him alcohol, and then he spits it out at them, and they're like, oh, that's good stuff, what are you doing? And it's just like, you expect a gorilla or any type of animal not to spit out alcohol, especially liquor?
Yeah, and then the one, like, right-wing redneck guy, he gets, like, a conscience, and he betrays them, much like Richard Spencer betrayed the alt-right, and he told everyone to vote for Biden. So he's like the Richard Spencer of this movie. Kong breaks out. He explodes out of the thing. And I was not ready for this level of violence in the movie, by the way, because it's been pretty tame. And then he gets the other guy, and I was fucking I was laughing so hard.
See, they draw the line at animal cruelty.
Oh, okay.
But people are fine.
Yeah. So he grabs the other guy and he eats him, and then he's like, oh, something in my teeth. And he pulls out the guy's hat, and I bursted out laughing. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And it'd be one thing if this was just a straight up comedy, but it's not. So those scenes feel weird. Yeah, so all this excitement is hurting Kong's robot heart. He's like, oh man, so that's hurting. And then Linda Hamilton's got her like machine that syncs up with the heart. And she's like, I gotta do the sequence to fix his heart. And then Kong gets in the way and steps on the machine. She's like, he won't last a day now. Then they go, this fucking scene. They go to the camp with the hillbillies where they're all dead. And she's like, Kong, you've killed. There's nothing stopping them from killing you now. It's like, yeah, Kong killed. He was in New York and he killed a lot of people 10 years ago. He's already a killer.
Shocking.
As soon as
Did they forget?
As soon as he broke, it doesn't matter if he kills new people. As soon as he broke out of the facility, they're like, oh, he's a killer. We gotta kill him. New people doesn't matter. Okay, so Kong is walking around in the daytime. And he steps on a car, and by car, I mean they went to like a store and they bought like a miniature model kit.
I hate it.
Yeah, but then it cuts to some guy going, my dad's gonna kill me. And it's like, I think you're gonna get away with this.
It's not like you're drunk driving or just being an asshole trying to show off for a girl or something like that. Like,
did I miss it? Was he like, oh, I stole my dad's car? Like, maybe that, but it's like, you're like, hey, Dad, I couldn't predict that a giant gorilla would start walking around and crushing the car. I noticed in this movie, Kong actually walks on all fours like a regular gorilla most of the time. I mean, he does still stand up and walk, but that also weirded me out because of the previous movie, he didn't do that. And now his arms are bigger. I'm like, what happened here? What, is this the same Kong? So that was stupid. The army has Lady Kong surrounded. And King Kong shows up to save her, and this giant 60-foot girl.
What was it? Linda Hamilton or whatever, and the dude are like trying to break in. So like,
they're like, we'll go in at nighttime.
So military, right? It's the army and stuff. So when the dude finally breaks in and he's running, they just whack him with the gun instead of actually shooting him.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, when I'm breaking into a military base at night, I make sure to wear the brightest colors. I make sure to wear bright white so I can blend in with the shadows.
I hate this movie.
But you know who is really good at stealth? King Kong, apparently. The 60-foot gorilla is walking quietly so the military doesn't hear him.
It's because he's black.
And he blends in with
So
the
it blends
night.
it, yeah.
In the previous movie, didn't you hear his footsteps like constantly?
I'm almost positive.
Is he tippy-toeing in this one? So he's...
I guess.
So he's like...
That's because he's on all fours now.
Okay, so he's sneaking looking at the military, and they're all like, huh, I wonder where this giant gorilla could be. And then I shit you not, I'm not making this up. Kong picks up a bunch of dirt and throws it at them, much like Batman uses smoke bombs to hide himself. He throws the dirt to blind all of them, and he attacks all of them like he's freaking Batman. And I'm like, what is going on? The last thing I ever thought of was Kong being stealthy. And he beats the shit out of these tanks, too. He actually fucks up these
I
tanks.
hate this movie.
Next page. We're almost to the end. We're almost at the end. So they get to Lady Kong's facility. They take out the military guys there. They're
Yep.
very strong, apparently. And they're like, wait, she's not sad. She's pregnant. And it's like, and us as the audience is like, yeah,
Duh.
she's pregnant.
Duh.
Yeah, we know. We got it. We got it, movie. This isn't a big revelation. It's to the point where they shouldn't have made it a surprise because everyone fucking knew. Like, everyone who watches this with half a brain is going to be like, oh, yeah, she's pregnant. So they go into her little thing, and it's what is this giant elevator inside this big
Number
shaft?
one, that scene took so long. You didn't have to show the entire elevator ride. Also, that blue screen for the elevator ride was the worst thing I've ever seen in this movie.
What is this? Did they make it specifically for Kong? Is this like an unused missile silo? What is this thing that they're in? Who built it? Why did they build it?
Wasn't this a new facility, or am I thinking about the previous one? Because didn't they make...
No, because Kong ripped through that previous
That's
one.
right.
This
That's
one's
right.
underground. So they're about to leave. The door's opening to the top, but then the army guy wakes up and closes it. What are they gonna do? Well, King Kong, he opens up the door like a hero. Remember, I think he's supposed to be the bad guy, but anyway, he's a hero in this one.
He's like screaming, and then
he's like,
and then Lady Kong's just like, yeah, hey!
But Lady Kong, let's just say she's into group activities because she grabs the guy. Like, she wants him there too. Like, all right. Like, we get it. You're Polly. Anyway, so she grabs the guy. And I kind of like this because usually in King Kong history, it's always been male Kong grabs the girl.
Yeah.
So I like the twist
they
of
flipped
Lady
it,
Kong
yeah.
grabbing the guy. And
Also,
I think
Kong looks super pissed that he was there.
yeah, he wasn't really thrilled about it.
He's like, my woman's touching you. How dare you cocking me?
That's like when you're trying to hang out with a girl in like high school or college, and it's like, hey, you want to hang out? They're like, sure. And then you show up and like, this is my friend Steve, and I'm like, oh, she brought a guy to the. Oh, I thought this was a date. We must not be on the
It's
same.
like that one time that, I was hanging out with my friend and she invited you over, and then, I'm playing Final Fantasy.
Yeah, like that. It's
Yeah.
weird, right?
Yeah. I
agree.
mean, I was just like, all right, you guys do what you need to do.
I mean, I agree. It was weird, but that's what this is like. Kong's like, I saved you, and you have my baby, and who's that guy? Is he like your friend? Who is that? Yeah, so they escape, and then there's like another. And by the way, I'm saying hillbilly. I'm not saying because they're from the South, and I'm not saying rednecks. I'm not being offensive. This movie is portraying them as stereotypical hillbilly and rednecks. Like, this is, when I say that, I mean that's what the movie wants me to think they
Straw
are.
hat type bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't like this isn't an accurate representation of most of the South, I feel like. That being said, like, my dad is a very Italian guy with a mustache who makes pasta all the time, so who am I to talk about stereotypes? He should be on a video soon. I should get him in a review. Let me know if you want my dad in the review. We have some ideas of what we can review together, but do you guys want to see me review a movie with my dad? Let me know. Yeah, so they crash the hillbilly thing, and it's so funny because the guy's like, what's up in our family reunion, and blah, 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 blah. In the background, you see the Kongs, but the blue screen is so poor that it almost looks like they're just right there next to the people. Like, if you
So
were
they're just still partying, and it's just like, yeah, that's happening outside, whatever.
yeah, like the whole sense of scale and perspective does not work in this movie.
No.
And we watch, for our podcast, we watch fucking Toho Godzilla King Kong movies that somehow pull this off.
It's even like this actually reminded me of the NES Godzilla game. Remember with the volcano?
Oh, yeah.
Where you had to jump over it, but it literally looked like it was so far away.
Yeah, but it was like in the fort. It's so weird. But we watch these like stupid like King Kong Godzilla movies from the past, and somehow I'm able to get more immersed in those than this. Anyway, so they all flee, and Lady Kong falls back into the barn. Because she's going into labor.
Baby time.
It's baby time. She's about to go into labor. But then the military shows up and Kong has to defend his lady. And he gets shot to shit again. What is De Laurentiis' problem?
It's not as bad as the previous one, but it's still a lot of blood.
It's super bloody, but
How's this not rated R?
I don't know. But yeah, so he like kills basically the entire army, which I think is again, he did that in the previous one. Oh, no one cheers this time. The previous one, Jeff Bridges cheered when the army guys got
yeah,
floated.
that's what you get, you son of a bitch, or whatever it was. And I was like,
that's really mean. So Kong kills all of them. He's like hurling I do like that Kong is hurling tanks and stuff. But then the main army guy, who I keep calling main army guy, I don't know his name. I think I had this on with Justin earlier. I think he said that guy was in Beverly Hills Cop, the main army guy, but I'm not sure. So he's like shooting Kong.
With his little pistol.
Yeah, and then Kong in his last effort. By the way, the guy has plenty of time to run because Kong holds his fist up for a while.
Yeah, and he's just standing there, like, oh, well, I'm not going to get squished by that giant hand.
And then he just crushes the fucking tank.
I laughed. I laughed so hard.
Okay, so he's dead. Kong's heart is finally giving out. Or it could just be he's bleeding out from the millions of bullets that are inside of him.
Why not both?
And Lady Kong gives birth to baby Kong. And I told you, like, I think on paper, this scene must read really well and be very tragic. It's like Kong,
like, oh,
Lady Kong gives birth and King Kong crawls.
He's reaching for the baby, and
the
Linda Hamilton's all like, yes, reach for him.
Because,
and then the dude's also like, let him see his son.
because gorillas can't talk and you need someone to give direction. And so yeah, the heroes are like, look at him, show him, and then the baby Kong's like, Daddy, oh. And by the way, baby Kong, it's just a guy in a gorilla suit.
Yes.
It's the same size as the humans.
Yeah.
Which I think it should be a little bit bigger. Anyway, so it's just a guy in a gorilla suit.
She literally went through all that labor just to pop out like a cherry.
Yeah. And it's just like, Daddy, oh, and then he dies and he's crying, and then the baby's like, what's going on? I just was born a second ago and now I have to learn about death. What's going on? Reminds me of that sad video of the that's gonna bum people out. I was watching some nature video where like I think an antelope gave birth to another antelope, and the baby antelope.
I would hope it gave birth to another antelope.
Yeah, well, it gave birth to a tiger. No, the antelope is like learning to walk, and it still has the placenta, and it's like, oh, and then a cheetah grabs it. It's like, oh, that's gonna be hard. That's like so horrifying. Might have been a zebra. I don't know. Anyway, so this baby is just born in Kong, and it sees its dad die, so it has to figure out what death is, and it's like, ah. And it's very emotional, and like it should be emotional, but the effects are so bad. The baby Kong looks like shit. The adult Kongs look like shit. The awful blue screening of Linda Hamilton and the other guy look like shit. So the scene that should read very, very sadly is just very, very cringy. It's like last week we did Collateral Damage with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and when his family dies in the beginning, it should be sad, but the way it's filmed, it seems like it's in a parody movie. This is what this is. Like, this should be sad, but it's being filmed so poorly. Yeah, and for some reason, more military people don't show up and kill the other Kongs. I assume they flew them back to Borneo. Because now Lady Kong is in the woods. She's like,
it's a jungle or whatever. And
hi, baby Kong. Baby Kong's like swinging, and they're like, oh, you guy, oh man. And then it's like supposed to be a happy ending.
You know what the happy ending was?
What?
It actually ending.
Yeah, this one's bad. This one's really bad.
You told me that it was, what was your wording? Some type of short. Hold on. The hell did you tell me? Mercifully short.
It's only an hour and 30 minutes.
That's still too much.
It's shorter than me and Newt's Ghostbusters 2 review, which ended up being longer than the movie. It feels longer than it is. That's the thing. It's a short movie, but
Because it's bad.
yeah, because
You
it's
want
bad.
it to be over.
You want it to, yes, you very much want it to be over. So that movie I mentioned in the beginning that the director wanted to do, I think it was called, what was it, Taipan, right?
Yeah.
Taipan. So they ended up making that movie, different director, no Sean Connery. They made that movie and they made this, and it bankrupted Dino De Laurentiis' company. He eventually rebounded, because unlike other Italian directors, he actually made good movies. Occasionally he did schlock, but he eventually did the Silence of the Lambs movies and stuff like that. So it bankrupted the company. Linda Hamilton said she liked that she wasn't the damsel in distress, but the movie wasn't very good. And then I sent you the clip, and I can only find someone filming their TV of this.
Yeah.
So the studio sent like the thing to Siskel and Ebert, and they said, we're not going to give you, we're only going to give you clips for your local show, not your national show. And you have to sign a paper saying you won't show the clips on the other show, or we're not going to give you, you're not allowed to have any of these clips.
But this new one is so bad that the film company actually sent Roger and me letters saying they would let us show snippets of the film on our local TV shows in Chicago, only if we promised in writing not to show you the same clips on this our national show. Obviously, they were scared, and obviously neither one of us would sign such a letter. So, no scenes from King Kong Lives. That's almost a public service. Instead, just this warning. If you don't believe me or Roger, believe the film company that, think about it, couldn't find a single scene that it wanted you to see.
So how's this rank in your King Kong rating? How would you rank this with all the other King Kongs?
Here's the other ones.
Yeah.
I can't even show where this is.
Better than worse than King Kong Escapes? No, that one was actually stupid. But that had a robot Kong.
But I laughed at
Yeah.
like, you know, it wasn't like the like ha 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 it's really bad.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, oh ha ha.
It's hard to think Kong 76 as a disappointing sequel, because it's like, all right, Kong 76 is fine. Like, I shouldn't feel like it ruined the memory of the previous one, because the previous one's not great. But yeah, this one sucked. This one was so fucking bad.
Were they just trying to force another one out to like?
I don't know why, because I think the first one did okay. I think it made money, but it wasn't like a huge cultural impact. I mean, it helped Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges' career, but I don't think anyone wanted a second Kong, especially 10 years later. I feel like,
Maybe it had to do something with the rights, where they had to like do something to make. You know how like with Sony and Spider-Man.
well, like I said, there was a lot of legal issues.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like maybe there was like a thing like that,
But like,
they had to make it.
imagine getting like a sequel to the Broderick Godzilla in 2008. That's what this is like. It'd be weird, right? It'd be like, oh yeah, I remember that movie. They're doing a sequel to that one. Seems odd.
Didn't they leave it open at the end too?
Yeah, and the cartoon series picks it up. But yeah, skip this one. Skip it.
Unless like you're like super bored, you're trying to do like a drinking game or I don't know, something stupid.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Drink every time there's a bad blue screen shot. You'll be dead.
Drink every time you see the Lady Kong titties.
Well, Johanna, that was fun. What's not fun is, how am I going to sell all this stuff you got me from DC?
Well, I have some interested buyers. You should put on this hat just because it's funny.
Oh, okay. Are we going to, like, take a picture so people know what they're getting?
I'm going to take a picture of you with
Should
everything.
I hold this replica flag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, smile. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, cool.
I guess people will see that picture and then want to buy the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Let me just...
Is that something else you got from DC?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to show it off.
Oh.
See how everybody felt about it, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And oh, it looks like there's someone outside. Oh my God! Smoke bomb! What? United I like how these movies did the shared universe, like where it wasn't annoyingly interconnected like the Marvel ones have become or the DCEU. It's like, oh yeah, there's an organization, they deal with monsters.
I like how they had to put that in, like, oh yeah, like, he's still gonna grow.
He's still growing. Don't worry. He'll be big enough to punch Godzilla. Don't worry. The question we're going to ask in this review is, did Peter Jackson do too much? Was he a little too excessive with this film?
I think it's a very good question to ask.
Yes, because this movie is famously very long, and people highly criticize that. I showed you had seen these scenes out of context before.
Not all of them, but most of them I'd seen on YouTube, the cut scenes.
So this is the first time you've watched the extended cut with 38 minutes of deleted scenes.
That was a shockingly long movie.
Yes, longer, but it feels longer.
What is the runtime of the extended cut? Because the standalone movie's 3 hours, right?
The standalone movie is 3 hours, 8 minutes.
So we're talking about
plus 38.
Close to 4 hours.
The hell just dropped?
It was the Lola bunny.
Lola, no! I love this movie.
I do too.
I was, as you can tell, I still have my Starlog magazine. This is like one of the movies I can remember just slavishly following the production of it.
Yeah. It was a big deal when it came out.
And it was good because he was putting out those production diaries and whatnot. So this is a movie you could follow.
It was also right after Lord of the Rings. So everybody wanted to know, what is this guy going to do next?
Yes, we were all hype on Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson could do no wrong. I had gone back and I watched some of his horror stuff and fell in love with it.
Pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I am all on board for the next Peter Jackson thing. And then he said he was doing King Kong, and I love King Kong. Probably my favorite giant monster.
The 30s movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
King Kong in general, I like. Yeah. I've talked about how the 70s King Kong.
Yeah, you like the 70s King Kong.
The 70s King Kong is really creepy, but I like it for some reason. King Kong Lives, not so much. I wasn't a big fan of King Kong versus Godzilla, but I've seen the Japanese edit.
I love that movie. The Japanese version of that movie is great.
I mean, King Kong still looks stupid in it.
Of course.
But I've actually also gone back and watched King Kong Escapes.
I've never seen that.
That's a fun one.
Okay,
That's a fun movie.
I need to check that out. Yeah.
And Jurassic Park kind of was like the modern King Kong.
In a lot of ways, even referenced the movie. In the film.
So
what do they got in there? King Kong.
Didn't really have to make a modern King Kong, but they did it anyway.
I'm glad they did.
Yeah, and it's surprised it didn't happen earlier, but it almost did.
It almost did.
And Peter Jackson was involved with it early on.
Yep.
It's crazy to think he did Frighteners, then the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff behind the Lord of the Rings trilogy and how that was, going on and how it could have changed behind the scenes. Originally, it was going to be like 2 films, I think, and then they got involved and said, no, it has to be 3. They famously pushed the production back because they had to grow the Shire. Peter Jackson almost did this movie in 1996.
Yes.
And it was pretty different. There was going to be Carnotauruses. There was going to be a lot of different animals. But a lot of the creature design that they initially went for back in the 90s, they transferred over to this film.
Okay.
Famously, there's this big statue of Kong fighting the 3 T-Rexes, I think they were called back then.
Yeah.
And they still have it, I think, in Weta. Like,
they do?
I believe they do.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this movie was a long time in the making, and it wasn't until, you proved yourself on this little Lord of the Rings thing that will give you King Kong. But yeah, it's very interesting to look back at. We were talking about this last night.
Yeah.
Jurassic World is almost 10 years old. This movie was 10 years old when Jurassic World came out.
Yeah.
And now it's 17.
Yes.
Like, it's getting close to like its 20th anniversary, which is shocking, but yeah. Second best King Kong movie ever made.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I do love this movie. And I love the passion he put into it because it's his favorite movie is the original King Kong.
You can tell.
He got to remake it. Could you imagine remaking like a great original, like a film in your own vision? Like, how do I couldn't do it.
No.
I couldn't do it because there's no way to improve upon Roadhouse. It's already perfect.
Okay.
So if someone said, Tony, you're going to remake Roadhouse, I'm like, I don't know how to do it. I couldn't. It's impossible.
And not only Roadhouse, but the lore of Roadhouse 2.
Shut the... No. There is no Roadhouse 2. Anyway, but
Roadhouse the final chapter.
But somehow Peter Jackson, like, you're going to remake King Kong. And he's like, yeah, I'm in. Not the first time directors remade a movie they love. John Carpenter got to do The Thing.
Steven Spielberg, War of the Worlds.
Yes.
Yeah, there's loads.
Yeah. This was an incredible film to like watch the production of, to like read the behind the scenes. I think he talked about like the 90s one, even he admits probably would have sucked. There were like wacky jokes in it. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah.
I think they were trying to be more like an Indiana Jones thing in the other version.
Sounds fun to me.
Yeah. I mean, that model worked for the Mummy movies, so.
It's working for Jurassic World.
Yeah.
I mean, those movies are raking in like billions.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, because this movie plays it more. So this movie comes off more like, it's funny we talk about Jurassic Park. It actually reminds me more of the Lost World.
Yeah.
Like the jungle and the more viciousness of the animals. And we'll get to the creature design later on because I also want to connect that back to the newer Jurassic Park movies. But yeah, you know, Jurassic Park was a big thing in the 90s. And then, of course, you've got this at 96 before Lost World even come out. Yeah. So they probably were like, let's combine Raiders with the special effects.
That makes a lot of sense.
Of Jurassic Park and redo King Kong. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, we watched the very, very long version.
Yeah.
And we have some opinions on it.
Yeah.
And I remember people giving me a lot of shit for loving this movie because it was so long.
Well, people complained about it back then.
Yeah, as I've matured and gotten older, looking back, I still love this movie.
Yeah.
But now that the hype has died down and everything, I'm looking at it now and I'm like, yeah, they could have shaved a lot out of this.
Yeah.
They could have really trimmed out a lot of this.
To make it a better experience for sure. Like, because the funny thing I talked to you about is it's not like you can take out a bad scene. It's that all of these greatly made scenes are making for a poorer narrative. And I think that was Peter Jackson not necessarily, because you can see he's throwing everything he can at the movie and it's cool, but unlike the Lord of the Rings where you've got three act structured movies that are, these characters are being developed over the course of several different struggles. But this movie's just a remake of King Kong.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think we've learned now, especially from The Hobbit, like Lord of the Rings, those are really long books. So you can condense and move things around and you can make long movies out of them.
Yeah.
And this should have been a warning for us with The Hobbit. It's like, hey, King Kong's not a long movie.
Yeah.
This didn't need to be that stretched out with these many characters. And then The Hobbit comes along and it's like, this did not need to be this long, buddy.
Well, especially the third one. I think that's Peter Jackson's Achilles heel.
Yeah.
It might be like...
And I get it. Making the big, long movie, he normalized the 3-hour movie. Multiplexes will show it more. It'll run longer. It'll push all these other movies out of theaters because people want to go see the big movie.
Well, I think there's a caveat to all that if you release it at a good time, because this movie came out the very end of 2005.
Yes.
Like December, where nothing was competing against it.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Did that come out December?
Yes.
I saw both of those in theaters.
Yeah, I remember all my friends were hyped for Narnia. I'm like, that looks like a poor man's Lord of the Rings. I'm going to go see King Kong.
Yeah, well.
I have since see, here's my problem with... Here's the problem I have with Narnia.
Okay.
And I'll show you when it came out. So Narnia comes out. And in high school, my hair and everything, I looked like
You looked like Mr. Tumnus.
I looked like Mr. Tumnus in high school.
You did look like that.
Everyone called me Mr. Tumnus.
Oh, okay.
And then I eventually watched the movie. I'm like, I'm a fucking goat man to you people?
Well, what epic movie came out like right after that, though, right? Remember that?
And then, don't worry, years later, I embraced it and I was drunk Mr. Tumnus for Halloween. I walked around with like the horns.
I got it.
So I was just like, fuck, I got a coat. I'm going to go see the gorilla movie. I remember seeing the trailer for this and getting hyped.
Really cool, really dark, really fun.
I remember not being too sold on King Kong's design, but that's fine.
They changed it, yeah.
Yeah, which is funny, this making of King Kong book.
They still got the tooth thing.
Yeah, hold on, let me find it. I was skimming through it
The
earlier.
video game you were talking about also kind of still has the older, unrevised look of Kong.
Yes, which I have the video game right there. But yeah, it's just like the final shot of Kong, and it's with the tooth sticking out.
Yeah, I remember that image was everywhere. Yeah, in promotion.
Yeah,
for the
and
movie.
then they remodeled it. They do have some of the updated designs.
Why did they remodel it? Was it after like people complaining online, or just like
I don't know if it's, maybe they just changed their mind? Because remember, Gollum. By the way, skimming through this movie, you're gonna think it's all digital. A lot of it are giant sets and miniatures.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Some of the green screen and blue screen might not look good today.
Okay, but when they're on a set, like look how big that wall set
Pretty
is.
cool. Yeah.
But anyway, I remember seeing the trailer, and then like months later, like even the poster, and then they changed it. But he did something similar with Lord of the Rings. Gollum looked very different.
I did not know that. What did he look like?
Well, Gollum in Fellowship of the Ring, they never do a close up on him.
He's like more brown. Right?
Yeah, or like his face is just shaped different. If you look at Fellowship of the Ring, the few glimpses you get, he looks very different.
Okay.
And they were going to go with that design, but I guess when they were doing the second one, they just changed it.
More expression for Andy Serkis to act in, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I like the design they went through. He's like basically just a giant silverback gorilla.
Which is the only time that they've really embraced the movement and like, gorilla.
Really tried to make it a gorilla.
Yeah. I saw it in theaters, and I have something to say about that when we get to the end of the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I loved it. I really, there were people complaining.
Yeah.
They were like, this movie's too fucking long, just like War of the Worlds. I'm so bored of this shit. I'm like, dude.
I feel like War of the Worlds was long.
They hated it too, though.
Yeah.
Back then, and even today, maybe, although today we don't have as good as movies as shit like this anymore.
Yeah.
People would complain about shit for like
it was weird.
The dumbest of reasons.
Yeah.
Like War of the Worlds was one. King Kong was probably one of the bigger ones.
War of the Worlds does have a big issue at the end, yes.
But that one issue at the end does not mean the whole movie is bad.
There's little things, but for the most part, I like that.
And I don't think it's I'm not saying these are flawless. I'm just saying like, the majority of which people. Yeah. I don't remember people jumping for joy over King Kong, and I liked it a lot. Yeah. But I remember people being like, the over long, kind of like, how people complain about Titanic's 3 hours of watching a boat sink?
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's not 3 hours of watching a boat sink.
But you know what I mean, right? Yes. Like, they would equate similar
If you want to know more about Titanic, we have a review for Titanic on this channel. I like how it shows you the animals first. And
in
it's
the
like,
zoo, yeah.
Are we in the jungle? And then you find out it's just the zoo. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we see it's the Great Depression. We see what's going on. There's like prohibition and whatnot.
Hard to work.
Yeah, people are like starving and whatnot. It's setting up New York. New York looks beautiful.
Yeah, very good.
A lot of it is big sets with miniatures and digital enhancements. They had to like make New York, 1930s New York in the computer. It took longer for them to make their digital model of the Empire State Building than it did to make the Empire State Building.
Oh, really?
That was like a thing I read. It took them like 18 months and the Empire State Building took like 13 months.
That's insane. Wow.
Because they had to digitally make the building and then make it look like the 30s.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that would probably be a painstaking process.
So like it's a really great setting. You got this old-timey song. We're seeing like the weird entertainment they used to watch back then.
A lot of like plays and
plays
circus
and dancing
style
and stuff.
Yeah.
Before you had YouTube, you had to go somewhere and watch people do weird shit.
Yeah.
Now you just watch it. But yeah, we get introduced to Anne. Who's an actress. She's very into the writer Jack Driscoll.
Yeah.
Her playhouse is under hard times. We thought this part was kind of mean, where she's like, hey, old guy, you're the only family I have. And she's like, have you eaten today? To show like people are like starving.
And obviously he's like, no, because I want to make sure that I don't like waste all my money.
Yeah, and then she's like, come on, take me to dinner. And it's like, bitch, he just said, like, you know why he's not eating.
We were talking about like 90 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I definitely.
Maybe they went to the soup kitchen.
And it's no use. The show, it's over. It's done.
Yeah, everybody's fired. And then the guy's going back to Chicago.
And he's like, I'm going back to Chicago. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And it's all sad. It's like, okay, we're moving along. We've now been introduced to our main character.
And we get the driving motivation of like the struggle that she's going with and what she needs to do.
Yes.
I get it. Yeah.
And then she meets another guy. And then she's like, hey, I want to audition for the Driscoll part, the Driscoll play. And he's like, we already gave it to someone else, lady.
Yeah.
He's the only one who's talking old-timey.
Yeah, everybody else is kind of, there's... Yeah.
Only Jack Black kind of talks old timey. This guy's all old timey.
Yeah.
By the way, the one thing I like about this guy is everyone in the movie is just like Naomi Watts is a gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
But they're like, oh, Anne, you're so beautiful. You're beautiful, Anne. You're beautiful. Even Kong is signing beautiful. And this is the only guy in the movie that goes, you're not bad looking.
Oh, yeah, that guy does say that.
I'm like, what a fucking Chad. That guy's negging her hard.
That is funny. And then he gives her the instructions to go.
Yeah, he's like, hey,
the strip
go
club.
here,
Yeah.
show your tits and get out of town.
It is. I do like that they set up her character really well.
Yeah.
She's not just like a random woman. She is actually someone that's fallen on hard times. They sell the reason she goes to the island.
Yeah.
And I like the reference to the original movie that we'll get to later on.
Yeah, yeah.
That shows how they changed some stuff up. But yeah, like
yes. Well, I forgot. The old guy is giving us a lot of exposition about Anne.
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah, because I guess they were like, oh wait, we made her a loner, and he's like, everyone always gives up on you, Anne. You're always so sad.
I'll be honest with you, it's pretty decent exposition.
I guess so. It feels a little weird, but
yeah, but for a character that's just there to like push her along.
We meet Carl Denham.
Yes.
Who is showing the studio stock footage of animals.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be showing them.
He's supposed to be showing them a movie
for $40,000.
Yeah, and they're like, "Where's our movie?" It's like, well, our actress, we pushed it back to get her teeth fixed, and we're gonna go to an island.
So we can go to an island. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, island. It's like, yes, we're gonna go to an island.
The script's been rewritten. I found his fucking map.
I have had the opposite of this.
Oh, really? Okay.
When we did the AVGN Trespasser. When I was Trespasser, when I was working on that, and I was coming up with ideas for it. I remember like with Ryan and Justin up there, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna make it look like the nerd goes to an island. We'll just film it in the park, and some of it we did film in the park. Okay. And then like this is the so in this movie, like, you're not going to an island, you're ridiculous.
Okay.
And when I'm pitching that to them, Ryan's like, I know an island in the Delaware we could go to, and I'm like, we're going to an island now.
so okay. Yeah,
I'm the reverse Carl Denham. I'm like, I was gonna do the super cheap. We're now on an island. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Carl like gets kicked out, and they're like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And they're like, we'll just sell his footage.
I've always remembered his like getting rid of the whatever whiskey and like listening.
Yes, and his assistant is Colin Hanks, Tom Hanks' son. My second favorite Tom Hanks son. My first favorite is Chet Hanks, the creator of White Boy Summer.
Bad gal, white dandada. Rude boy, it's a white boy summer.
Now, a lot of people were upset about White Boy Summer, but they always forget that in the same video, or a follow-up video, he also announced that it was also Black Queen Summer.
Oh.
And people always forget that part, because Chet Hanks loves everyone. I would have loved Chet Hanks in this movie. I think he would have done very well.
Fun, for sure.
He's like, yeah, you lied to the actress, right? And he's like, no.
But we're not going to Singapore.
It's like, you're supposed to lie to her, you idiot. And Carl Denham's just a total asshole. He'll do anything to get his movie done. I like that. I didn't realize before he like leaves with all the footage.
He stole their footage. They paid the money to have it, and I didn't realize that either. He's got like all the reels.
Yeah.
And he's just like gone.
But yeah, as they leave and get away from the thing, which I feel like a lot of this could have maybe been trimmed down, where it could have just been like the original, where it's like, I'm going to an island, I'm a rich guy or something.
Maybe. One thing that we did talk about here, this cut of the movie, the longer cut of the movie, and I mentioned to you before we really gotten into it, I said, this movie doesn't really have an antagonist. Carl Denham.
In the extent of he is kind of the antagonist.
He's the villain.
In the extended cut, he is more of an antagonist.
He's more of a pretty terrible guy.
Yes.
And I think one thing that I could definitely see if this film had come out in the completed cut, the fact that he doesn't get any comeuppance.
Yeah. I think that might have been why they trimmed a lot of that out.
Because, you talk about greed and shit. We'll go on to later. This guy.
The theatrical cut, and like even the scene is setting up that he's just overly ambitious.
Well, he's also a thief.
Yes.
He's just stolen.
But the extended cut really, and we'll get into it, the extended cut really shows that he is a bad guy. He's just insane.
He's just mean.
But yeah, I do like the little reference for the fans.
Love it, yeah.
Face a size 4. Yes, she is, but she is doing a picture with RKO.
Cooper, huh?
Might have known.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's fun for fans, but I can see people in the audience going, who?
Yeah, but I also think it helps this movie like have an excuse to like flesh out how they got to the island, which is really just they need this to build these characters up.
Yes. The only character that's not really being built up yet is Jack, who we don't meet till a little bit later.
Him until a little bit later.
He goes to the strip club to get a girl who will fit into whatever's outfits, and then
Maureen's
he sees Anne.
Yeah.
And he follows her, and she's like trying to steal food, and he like gets her out of trouble. Then he takes her to dinner where she's like stuffing her face because she's super starving because it's the Great Depression. He basically is just like, you're so sad looking and whatnot. You got to be in this movie. She's like, I'm a comedian. It's like, no, you're not. You're pathetic.
Yeah.
But yeah, he convinces her to be in the movie because he says Jack Driscoll is writing it.
Yeah, which she's a big fan of.
Yes, she's a big fan of. She's like, I'm sorry. Did you say Jack Driscoll?
She's like, you know him?
We meet Engelman, played by Thomas Kretschmann, fresh off of Resident Evil Apocalypse.
You mean Captain Englehorn?
Captain Englehorn, who is very different from the Captain Englehorn in the original.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, Jack Driscoll is like the first mate in the original, and they change him to a playwright. And then Englehorn is kind of a mixture of the original Jack and the
But
original
then you also
Anglehorn.
got to throw in there the Bruce Baxter like character.
Yes, he's coming up.
Yeah.
And Anglehorn is upset that they're not paid, and he's like, "You'll accept a check, right?" He's
when
like,
I get my first $1,000.
He's like, "Do I have a choice?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, Thomas Kretschmann, he's been in a lot of things lately. He was wasted as what's his face in the Avenger movies. He shows up as like a high-ranking Hydra guy in Age of Ultron, and then he gets killed off camera. And it's like, huh, that guy's like a big character in the comics, and he was relegated to one scene.
Yeah, I don't even remember that.
Good for him.
Yeah.
We meet Jack Driscoll, who's Adrian Brody. This is when Adrian Brody was big. He got an Oscar
he
a
was
few years
coming
prior
up.
for The Piano, which we actually might have. No, not The Piano, The Pianist.
Yeah.
The Piano's a different movie.
The Piano?
The Piano is Anna Paquin, who won an Oscar when she was 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 movies about, so that's the trick. Just make a movie about a piano.
And it works.
It'll work. But yeah, he's only written a few pages for the script.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what the fuck? We're writing a movie here. It's like, sorry, you didn't pay me. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And I like this whole thing where like Jack Black is just like stalling.
Oh yeah, where he's trying to write the check.
He's like, let me write you a check. He's like, you wrote $2,000. Like the word $2,000. He's like, he's ripping it up because he sees the boat is taking off.
What an asshole.
He's like waiting to jump.
Yeah, and he
to
doesn't.
get back.
Yeah.
And he's just like, see, the theater's not for you. You belong in movies. He's like, I love the theater. And I love that because, like, again, I kind of relate to Carl here. Is like, nah, if you loved it, you would have jumped.
Dude, they
Yeah.
make so many jokes about this guy early on, and I never viewed him as evil until I watched this cut of the movie.
I kind of agree with that, though. Like, I love. I've done a lot of shit for movies. It's like, yeah, if you loved it, you would have jumped.
I get it's fun,
jumped.
it's funny, but like when we get to the island, this guy.
But you're right. We do see Bruce Baxter, played
Yeah.
by Kyle Chandler, in his first King Kong continuity.
Yeah.
They're showing Jack his quarters. We get a cameo from the Sumatran rat monkey.
Yeah.
Which is a reference to Evil Dead, which takes place on Skull Island.
They also Evil Dead. You mean?
Dead Alive. Dead Alive.
Brain
Dead Alive.
Dead.
Brain Dead. Dead Alive.
So you also get the chloroform reveal here.
Yes.
And they tell Jack, you got to hang out in one of these cages, like
Because that's the thing. These people, they kind of like they capture.
they catch animals for zoos
sell them,
and stuff. Yeah.
But man, they're worried about King Kong. They don't know how bad that rat monkey is. That could
Yeah.
cause zombies. We never see that
They
rat
actually
monkey.
mention Sumatra again later on in the movie.
They do?
While they're on the boat. I believe they do.
Huh.
They're like, looks like it's out past Sumatra or something.
Oh
like that.
wow, I didn't catch that
Yeah.
this time. So here's a thing where things are a little too excessive, and he's trying to do too much. The introduction to the Jimmy subplot
Yeah.
with
well,
Jamie Bell,
I'm
Billy
fine.
Elliot.
I'm fine with both Jimmy and Captain Hayes, but I think the way they resolve where this is, it's not actually a resolution.
It like fizzles out. It mounts to nothing.
It's actually a little bit morbid.
Yeah,
when
and
you
then
get- yeah.
again, like this is a character who just disappears in the third act.
Yeah, he's the Nick Van Owen of of King Kong.
Yeah.
He just kind of goes away.
So they're spending like so much time with Jimmy, and like we get introduced, like the first mate Hayes like found him in the shipping.
He's
thing.
hanging out there.
And we get like a mystery of where did he come from?
He's
Like
stowaway, and he's also trying to be like a father figure.
Yeah.
And teach him to like. Remember, he stole the fucking book from the library.
yeah, that comes up, but it's just like I don't care, and it just drags the movie
I think
out.
it was sweet and fine, but if it had gone somewhere, it
Yeah.
would be a little more.
I think it was just Peter Jackson wanted Jamie Bell to be in it because he was big on Billy Elliot. He was a nice young rising
Sure,
star.
yeah.
And he's just like, I'm gonna write a character Jimmy for you, and he's gonna slow the fucking movie
I don't think
down.
anybody liked the Jimmy guy. I think Captain Hayes was pretty cool, but like,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's stuck with the Jimmy subplot. So I just really don't like. I'm just like, you could have cut this out easily.
Sure, yeah.
You could have just never written in the first
I
place.
kind of prefer Lumpy and Choi.
Yeah, Lumpy and Troy are great.
I actually really like. I even said this when we were
Yeah.
watching the movie. I think this is Andy Serkis's best like actual performance. That's not motion capture.
And I said you
He's got
better,
the
better than
one eye.
Alfred,
Yes, better than Alfred in the Batman.
better than Claw.
Yeah, I didn't even remember that. oh yeah, Claude. Yeah, it's better, way better than that. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. You know what? I'm Team Lumpy. Who's on the cover?
yeah. Lumpy's a badass. The way he goes out, if you had
That's the thing. Andy Serkis plays two characters. He plays Kong
Yeah, which a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah,
anymore.
and he plays Lumpy. Yeah, this is his first ape, and he would go on to play other apes.
Yeah.
So we see the sound guy, and he's talking about how sound equipment.
You've captured the voice of the common people.
Yeah. It's actually a really funny scene. So she's meeting the crew, and she assumes the sound guy is Jack Driscoll.
Right. Yeah.
And she's like, "You're amazing. I love your work." And the guy's like, "Really?" I love. She goes, "You've captured the voice of the common people."
Well, thank you.
And he thinks it's a sound recording. And then she starts talking about like the writing, not realizing the real Jack's behind her.
Right, yeah.
But I'm like, this is funny. And then she goes, "You look nothing like your picture."
Yeah,
and I'm like,
so it's like, how'd you confuse them?
Because they look nothing alike.
The glasses. Maybe she's like, I don't know, dude.
And by the way, she says that guy's like way better looking.
Which is a little insulting.
And I'm like, oh, wow. But then she's into Jack afterwards?
I do feel like the extended cut of the movie severely dampens the relationship between Anne and Jack because so much shit happens in between them actually interacting with each other.
Yes.
It makes it a little harder to buy into.
And we're getting to the extended scenes that a lot of that is on the island.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I think that might be another thing. People weren't really sold on the romance between them.
Well, Jack's just like, this is the only person that gives a shit about my work.
Yes.
So I've got to save Anne.
Yeah, I never really got into their relationship. Like, I know she needs to fall in love with a human, I guess.
I bought it more in the theatrical cut, but even then, we've talked about how it can cut scenes out to.
And I get like the original, you just need the damsel to fall in love with the guy.
Sure, but
and I believe the romance in the 70s. Because Jeff,
I need to rewatch that.
Because I mean, Jeff Bridges and
you mentioned that's Jessica Lange.
Jessica Lange, they were both ridiculously good looking, so of course they would be into each other.
All I remember in that movie is bearded Jeff Bridges looking up while the helicopters are shooting. Maybe that's because that's also the beginning of King Kong Lives.
Yes, you don't remember him shirtless? He was in good shape back then. And Jessica Lange, Jesus Christ, watch our episode on that.
I remember Stay Hungry more than I do King Kong.
This scene could have been cut. We have Jimmy drawing on Baxter's posters.
Yeah, why is that in there? Well, I guess it's there to show that Bruce Baxter's a narcissist and Jimmy's a little shit.
Yeah, but we kind of get that because he's an actor. We don't need it.
Yeah, he's already like, hey, mister, help me get my bags.
I would have accepted it because there is a shot where he draws a mustache on him and Baxter's mad, but then he likes the mustache.
You know, they should have done at the end when they...
Yes, it would have been funny if when we meet him at the end...
He's got the big mustache.
Months later, he had a mustache, but then they don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you could just cut this out. You don't
it would have been
this.
perfect because I think he's even wearing that safari style outfit in that poster where they and that's like what he's got on stage.
I love the poster. It just says Dame Tamer. I'm like, I want to watch Dame Tamer.
What was the other one? Tribal something?
I forget.
Raiders or something? Yeah.
We're filming on an island now. When did this happen?
Jack Black is telling him about the island.
Yeah, they all kind of gang up on him. Like, where the fuck are we going, buddy?
Well, no, before that, he's just like, let me tell you the name. And then...
Oh, the Skull Island with the typing? Yeah, you don't like the slow-mo?
Peter Jackson's choppy slow-mo. I hate the choppy slow-mo.
You said he'd use
He uses it so much here.
You said he'd used it in Lord of the Rings, and I didn't remember, but he does use it in the Mines of Moria and other places for when the goblin orcs start coming out.
But here he used, like, this whole scene is choppy slow-mo. And again, this scene could have been sped up a little bit.
They use it a lot when the natives come, too. It's interesting that they... Maybe he just wanted this movie to be long.
So it really feels like they're padding it. I'm like, this didn't need to be here.
It's interesting.
The crew gets really mad at Carl for wanting to go to Skull Island. And Lumpy tells them the whole story. He's like, yeah, we met a guy. He was adrift. And
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's like, he talked about this island that had a giant wall and it was really scary.
Nobody knew who built it or where.
Yeah. Again, this scene could have been reworked a little different. I don't know if we needed this. Like,
well, they need to know that maybe they don't need to know they're going to Skull Island.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need them to know they're going there. It could have just been a coincidence. I don't think we have to set up the legend of Skull Island. Jack and Anne, they make out.
They do, which I forgot about being in this movie.
Yes, and while they're making out, we get more bad slow motion of them getting a telegram that Carl is wanted by the authorities.
Yeah. Good luck getting them now.
It's just the bad slow motion. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, I had forgotten that he'd used it that much.
I like when he drops the map into the water.
It's a pretty cool shot.
Yes.
I like the mystery around all that stuff.
Yeah, we never find out where he gets the map. Well, same in the original. I think Son of Kong, we find the guy who gave Carl the map.
Yeah, I don't think Son of Kong would be that out of the realm of possibility of doing a sequel to this movie.
Maybe.
Because you could add a lot of shit in that.
But this is another scene. So, like, This is when Peter Jackson in his career, it's like every action scene has to be this like amazing, complicated
They
action
go
scene.
a really long time doing this whole, we're approaching Skull Island.
Yeah, they're going into the fog. They're doing like the 20 knots or whatever.
I think they could have just crashed into the thing. And
Yeah. So then there is some like the ship gets blown around, but it goes on for a while. And you're right, the green screen here looks a little weird.
It's because some of the lighting looks like they're really well lit, but it's at night in a storm with like wind.
I guess he like colored them differently so they stand out from the background instead of being all blue.
Yes.
But then it just looks unnatural.
Yeah, it
and
does
weird.
look. It looks. I didn't realize how. I forgot that this movie came out in 2005. I thought it was much.
Yeah,
it was a while ago. So
Yeah.
like, I get why it doesn't. That doesn't hold up as quite as well as it.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of like other movies that we did
Like
Mary
Narnia.
Shelley. Huh?
Like Narnia.
Yeah, no. I'm thinking of like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein opens up with like a ship crashing, and that one's done pretty quick.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, I mean, they do this really long.
Yeah, it goes on a
Captain
little.
Hayes is doing the fucking thing, and
Yeah,
like,
then, like,
Jimmy's up top going
on
ah
the crow's nest, like,
yeah,
thrown around, and it smashes up on the rocks.
yeah. It was
It's
a
like,
little excessive.
Yeah, it's excessive.
Yeah,
is the word.
We haven't even gotten on to the island.
We're
yet.
still. This is
Yeah.
our first like big action scene, I guess. But
Probably
it's just,
like 40 minutes into the movie.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
we're not even there yet, and like, all right.
All right.
I didn't come to see the boat crash.
I do. One thing I will really like about this is we get to see the name Skull Island put to good use because there's all of those carved like skulls and
Yes, I
faces
do like
and
the
everything.
design of like the rocks. All
I
have
had
faces
forgotten
in
about
them.
that until we were watching it. I was like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool.
Jimmy's reading
Yeah.
Heart of Darkness, and then he has this long ass scene of him quoting Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
And it's like, just get him on the island, goddammit.
This movie's so overly
It's
indulgent
very over the top.
than what you would expect, like just a remake of King Kong.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He probably got a little big head from the Lord of the
They're
Rings.
taking it very seriously. It's the Lost World Jurassic Park effect, where like the first Jurassic Park is just it's cool. But it's mainly fun. You know, like Lost World was like serious.
Yeah.
Big game hunter. Like, you know what I mean? This movie feels like more of that.
Yeah.
So, and now they're throwing in like Heart of Darkness.
Yeah, I want to have a Heart of Darkness speech over this whole thing that's set on. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. What about the story?
Can you just speed up a little bit?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, a lot of this is tied into the fucking Jimmy Hayes story, and it's like, no one cares about Jimmy.
We'll get to where that ends up.
I will say all versions, this is in the trailer and the video game, but all versions cut out her on the rocks where he goes, scream at
Oh, yeah,
scream
yeah,
for your
yeah.
life.
Scream for your life!
Yeah.
Which makes sense because then it happens again. So doing it twice. This is the one time where Peter Jackson held some restraint and left something out of the movie.
Sure.
Out of both versions of the movie, he left them out. So yeah, they get to the village and there's beautiful miniatures on a blue screen.
Yeah.
This is when he still, Weta and them did miniatures.
Maybe
just
one
like
of the last
Rivendell and
movies.
whatnot.
Yeah. Maybe one of the last films to use that extensive amount of it.
No, Nolan uses a lot of miniatures in his films.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
But it's just like Chicago.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like there's even in those scenes there's a ton of miniatures.
rebuilds those
that's the thing.
cities? I didn't know that.
He does it so well you don't realize they're miniatures.
Yeah.
Like even in Inception, that big like building and stuff they shoot at the
Yeah,
end, that's
yeah.
a big miniature, but people don't realize it.
Wow.
And then sometimes Nolan will just crash a giant plane through a building
Yeah.
because it's cheaper. That was my favorite thing with Tenet.
I didn't see that movie, by the
It's
way.
not that good.
Yeah.
But Tenet, they were gonna build like miniatures and stuff with the plane crashing, and then he realized it was just cheaper to buy an old plane and crash it through like a demolished building.
I wonder what he's gonna do like next.
Oh, he's doing an Oppenheimer biopic.
About the guy that made.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
So the idea I heard years back, it's like they built this wall because the humans there, whatever the civilization was who originally built this,
And all the ruins on the island and shit.
yeah, like I guess like the wildlife just got too out of control.
They had to
and they
hide
weren't
away.
able to survive on the island.
That makes perfectly fine sense.
So I guess they built this giant wall. But the thing is, like, they built the wall, but now they're like so secluded from like the food and
Yeah,
stuff.
they're on the
So
rocks, man.
You see that they just have like fish that they're eating. Like 'cause that's
Yeah.
the only thing that they can like eat.
Yeah.
But I think the idea is that they've like regressed because it's just generations of people starving.
Right, which is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I do think the entire sequence with the natives is great. Like when you first meet them, because it's pretty scary.
And they all have like an odd color because they knew they couldn't do black people.
Yeah.
They were afraid to make it any actual race. So I
didn't know any of this, by the way.
Yeah, so all the natives, they have this kind of like this blackish, brownish, gray kind of color.
I never
to them.
caught on to that, but I did notice when the kid is like, well, I completely forgot about the candy bar thing.
Oh, yeah, he tries to give the kid a candy bar.
I completely forgot because I think there are scenes in the original King Kong where they do use blackface.
There are a lot of black people in the original, but there might have been some.
Well, they definitely use it in
King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, that movie's comedy, but like at the same time, I guess they were trying to go for, if these people live on an island and they've been cut off from what they were normally living in, they've like something's with them that's like a little, and they're eating fish and stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
well, I think they just wanted to be a completely different race that we never seen before, so they kind of like settled on this color tone for them.
Their weaponry and stuff has Aztec stuff to it too, like where they're crushing skulls.
Yes.
I thought the natives were fucking scary.
Everybody go, the old witch doctor?
Yeah, the witch.
With like her mustache and stuff. That girl's horrifying.
Dory Kong. Even in theaters, I was like, yeah, fucking
yeah, and this is the scene where she screams, and we hear Kong for the first time.
Yeah.
The ship's crew rescues them from the natives.
And where the hell does the captain shoot the guy?
We don't know.
Yeah.
And the guy is falling in slow motion while everyone is moving in normal motion.
It's a very PG-13 kill. Even back in the theater, I'm like, where did he shoot him?
Yeah.
Because like there's no like, it had to be in the face, right?
And of course he's falling in bad slow mo. Or no, he gets shot in bad slow motion.
It's the like where he goes back.
I love how like every version of King Kong, it's just like the natives see the blonde girl and they're like, oh, thank God we don't have to sacrifice one of our own.
Give
Just
Kong
grab
this
her.
girl.
Just grab her.
Yeah.
Just grab her. Like, hey, we kind of like our women. We have to sacrifice it, but can we just grab a random one?
It's pretty cool how like when they come to rescue everybody too,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, let's go.
I do like how the natives like sneak onto the ship.
Oh, it's
Just
pretty
like,
cool, but
it's different than the 70s where they just boat up and like grab her and then boat off.
I don't remember that version that well.
They literally are just like, hey, what's up, lady? And they grab her.
Oh shit. I do like the idea of like the pole vault. It actually reminds me of Tremors.
Yes.
Where they're like getting across.
Yes, but that scene's cool, like in the waters, like all tense and whatnot. But yeah, it's taken us a while to get here.
One thing that we should mention right around here is the awesome music in this movie. It's like
James Newton Howard.
From start to end.
Howard Shore was going to do the music.
Oh, is that who it was? Okay.
Yes, but I think they just had conflicting ideas on it.
For
So he
what
was like, just do
direction to go.
James Newton Howard.
Well, he does a great job though. The
yeah. He had to do it like real quick.
And
he
you
didn't have a lot of
mentioned
time to work on it.
There's a lot of points in this movie where the music isn't really fitting, but it's more impactful because like we'll talk about a specific
the one scene. Yeah. And this is the same year he did Batman Begins with Hans Zimmer.
Yes.
And I remember the trailer for this had the Batman Begins music in it. I wonder how this all started. Like, why does Kong protect them if they feed him
might
a woman?
think that. I mean, there is a cool part though.
I mean, he shows up every time they do it.
And I actually do like the fact that when he shows up here, it's pretty similar to the way he showed up in the 1933 as far as like the shot composition goes.
Yeah.
It's more animalistic because you see like a silverback just like drop in.
Yeah.
But
oh, and I like instead of just like they tie her up and shut the door, they have like they don't even want to go in. They just have this bridge that comes down. Like the drawbridge exists. I guess sometimes they have to go in because the bridge has a door, but you can tell they don't want to go
get some
in.
berries.
Yeah, they're like, shit, we got to go in and hunt.
Yeah.
Who's gonna go on the scary
Hunt,
bridge?
what are they gonna kill? They can't kill any of that shit. They've got to be collecting like bamboo.
Yes, when you see what's in there, you're like, oh man, that'd be the worst place.
Maybe
to
they
hunt.
could take down the bird. But
Yeah, they could probably take down the bird. Talk about excessive. Like this whole movie is built on like these interactions between Anne and Kong, and they spent like an hour before we see Kong.
Yeah.
It's like, but when your movie is going to be built around this, you want him to show up a little earlier.
I wonder if this film had been made today, would they even release it? With the way that they like are such strangleholds on like blockbusters, they're like, this isn't a blockbuster. What did you deliver? Did you deliver a quality movie?
If it was Peter Jackson,
they may have letting it slide. But even
if it's a director who's won the studio's trust,
but even in the Hobbit films, he goes so overboard with action sequences and things.
Yes.
So you got to wonder, like...
Well, these days he can kind of produce his own stuff.
Like the beginning of The Hobbit. Even the first... And I think the first two Hobbits are completely serviceable. Like the opening, you've got the smog attack.
Yeah.
Like, and like that was not the beginning of the Hobbit.
Yeah.
So, and then they include the entire wargs chasing them in the. So yeah, you got to think about this. You don't see Kong until like an hour into the movie.
Yeah.
You're probably like, oh well, this movie's.
And I bet you that's why Skull Island. They're like, you're showing him in the first fucking scene.
Yeah.
And then 20 minutes later, he shows up again.
You're playing Fortunate Son, like you're doing the napalm.
And Kong looks great.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Yeah,
it
it's
looks great.
a very good.
Now
effect.
we were watching on DVD. But I do have the HD DVD that a fan sent in, so I will watch the HD DVD.
That was the only movie I remember they heavily promoted was King Kong.
Yeah.
On HD DVD.
I don't know if it even works. As fans are telling me that like Warner Brothers, they rushed out a lot of these because they made it. The HD DVDs, they rushed out a lot of them, and whatever like factory or whatever they used to press a lot of these, like the DVDs don't hold up.
Oh, so there's like even more advanced disc rot. Or
Yeah,
something.
there's disc rot and whatnot. So someone sent me their entire HD DVD collection. I'm gonna go through them.
How many were there?
A lot.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I have an HD DVD player, and then someone else sent me the HD DVD player attachment for the Xbox 360.
That's right. You had
I'm gonna
that.
test out both and
You
see
had
if they
that.
work. Now, this is our first extended scene. So you want this movie to be about Anne and Kong. We want to humanize Kong and show the relationship.
Sure.
Good idea cutting this particular scene out. Because we've just gotten excited.
It's a shame that
we see Kong. We got a little bit of a glimpse of him. We know there's a chase on. We want to go back to Kong.
And I agree with you. They should have cut this scene out. But
Yes.
this furthers an even weirder problem with this movie is every scene they cut out is actually a good scene.
Yeah.
Like the Ceratops scene that they designed.
I have it here. It's a kind of Ceratops.
Okay.
It's kind of Ceratops.
I'm sure it has a name, but
they all have names like the
Venatosaurus,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the Stastosaurus.
Yeah.
But like the idea is that these animals have continued to evolve on the island. Which
Yeah, because they're not quite dinosaurs.
really cool.
And he made a choice. They were like, "Are you going to try and make them more accurate?" It's like, "No, they're moving."
No, because this is a remake of King Kong.
Yeah, he's
sir.
like, "No, I want to
Like,
make the gorilla as lifelike as possible, but all the other ones are just movie monsters."
Remember in the original, they kill the Stegosaurus. That's coming.
That's what this scene
That's what this scene is.
But I mean, it works for the original because the original's a little faster.
Realized.
Yeah.
Similar to the book Jurassic Park, where the sick Stegosaurus was swapped out with a Triceratops.
Oh, yes.
I wonder if he intentionally did that.
It would be pretty funny if it was. But yeah, they fight the kind of Ceratops and they kill it. And then we cut back to Anne. Again, yeah, you're right. It breaks up the action too much.
Yeah.
But yes, Anne. So what we're meant to believe here is the women on the island, they know they're being sacrificed, so they don't put up a fight. Kong beats them up and
Right, yeah.
because this is whatever agreement they've made, feed me a woman
But
and I'll leave
Anne-
you alone. So she's the pit of all the dead Bride of Kongs.
But by the way, wasn't that in the Jessica Lange movie? Isn't that how she got away from Kong's hand? Because it's been years since I've seen that. Because there's a scene in that one where she sees the corpses, right? Jessica
think
Lange
so.
when she's in Kong's hand.
I don't think so.
Oh, there's not. What am I conflating?
Well,
there?
now I have another excuse to rewatch Kong 76.
Go ahead.
But no, so she's the one who fights back, and it confuses Kong.
He's like, "How are you? Why?
Yeah.
This
Whereas older versions, you kind of imply where he's like, "Oh, he likes the pretty white lady and her blonde hair," and then you bring in the whole racial question.
we talked about that. I had heard someone say that, and I'd never thought that way about the King Kong story.
I don't even think the original movie is meant to have that
I don't
racial
think it is
tone.
either.
I think
Yeah.
people attributed a racial thing to it. There's definitely racists who probably watch the original King Kong going, "I know what they're saying," and then Marion C. Cooper's just like, "I wanted to make a monster movie."
Yeah, someone had brought that up, and I was like, I've never thought of that story like that at all. So that always, it's weird because you don't want it to
I don't think that's what it is.
I don't think it is either.
People have interpreted that way.
Right, yeah.
Either because they want it to be or they think, whatever. But in this version, how they get around it is yes, she doesn't know what she's supposed to do.
She's not a native.
She's not a native.
She wants to live.
And so and he's thrown off by it. He's like, uh-oh, this isn't just an object that I can have. This is, what is it doing? So he's confused and he's he keeps her around.
He doesn't
He's
quite
I need to know
understand what's
here.
going on. Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a relationship with humans.
Yeah.
He just
all he
knows-
does is wait for one to go on that little drawbridge and then grab it.
And he eats it or throws it or something. And that's all he knows he's supposed to do. But yeah, so he's just do these things have feelings? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And I actually like that they cut the kind of Ceratops scene because this feels like the first time they're seeing the
Yes,
dinosaurs.
and even-
that's how it seems like it's being filmed. And then they're just I mean, it would still be amazing if you saw a different dinosaur, but it's like, this isn't the first time you've seen it.
Well, don't forget the great line of, there's only one thing in the world that could have made that footprint.
The abominable snowman.
Which I got to laugh out in the theater. Again, I do think Peter Jackson, Lost World Jurassic Park has that T-Rex imprint.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's intentionally but it was less than 10 years after.
Yeah.
And we're on a jungle island with dinosaurs and they're all gathered around the footprint. And I'm like, you make it a joke out of it. I'm like,
or was it a reference to Godzilla 98 with the big footprint?
No, I don't think so.
So that's one problem. They were very confident in their effects. And they were like, we're going to put it in the harshest sunlight.
Yeah, not only that.
Which Jurassic Park did, but it's a brief in Jurassic Park. We don't see the CGI.
And they're running really quick.
They're running really quick. And they don't linger on them in the sunlight.
And the Tyrannosaurus that actually kills the Gallimimus is actually like doing a very cool attack and like.
Yeah. But this one, like, they were just a little overconfident and they don't look that great.
I think the design is fine. It's the way that they all kind of like mulge into each other and the fact that, unlike Jurassic Park, the only thing that is digital is the dinosaurs and those. That's like a backplate. Like, this is a live on Hawaii location running.
Yeah.
Whereas in King Kong,
it's all digital.
The only thing is the humans. That's
I love the idea for the stampede scene. I liked it when I was a kid. But yeah, looking at it now, I'm just like, them running on green screen looks so bad.
It also makes you wonder if like why are they afraid of the little raptor creatures if like they're that big? And if this happens often, how are they not extinct? Because they all fucking go off the edge of a cliff.
Not all of them.
But like nearly the whole herd.
I felt bad for the ones that fell off the cliff. I'm like, oh man, that's the thing. I feel really bad for these brontosaurus.
I always felt bad, especially when the machine gun fire hits their legs and they all tumble on top of each other, which looks incredibly fake with the people like flying in and out of.
But I mean, like, the idea for this scene is fun with these big raptors chasing them. And
they look more like baby Godzilla.
Yeah, I like the one that gets like stepped on.
I remembered that.
But like, no, you're right. The green screen, like they're lit so brightly and they're not blending in with the environment.
It's like,
I'm talking about the people.
Yeah, the
people, and they're clearly just running on treadmills, and it's very obvious.
There's that scene where like they're all piled up behind.
Oh God, yeah.
Either Jack Black or somebody comes sliding in from like, okay, he would have been crushed, and then like he stands out like a sore thumb against all the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it is cool how Baby Godzilla comes up and he's like, and kills it, but like it doesn't look as polished as a lot of King Kong himself. Looks incredible in the movie.
I love the idea for this scene, but it's one of those things. If I was looking at this editing, I'm like, I would have been like,
you probably would have cut most of it.
Yeah,
I think it's cool, and it's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie because, and you kind of do need the scene in the movie because it's followed up with. I don't remember his name, but the guy's like, take the tripod, and like,
oh, the cameraman, he's like, take my tripod, and he gets eaten by the raptors.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, like,
I guess they had to have raptors because of Jurassic Park.
And we've learned recently that dinosaurs in bright daylight still look bad. So check out our Jurassic World review. I mean, I guess Fallen King...
What do you think looked better, Jurassic World or King Kong with these bright daylight scenes? Because it's really close, in my opinion. Like, I guess you could pick and choose like which scenes.
It's a shot by shot basis.
Yeah, I think so too.
Overall, they're kind of even.
I think the famous that is probably one of the best daylight things in Jurassic World.
Well, I think the T-Rex fight looks pretty good later on.
That's at night though.
No. In this, I mean.
Oh, that's true.
That looks pretty good.
That's completely different though because I bet most of that is all CG.
That is all CG.
And because Anne is like so,
but I'm just talking
blurred.
about like as far as it goes with the CGI dinosaurs in the day. The movies are kind of equal.
Yeah, King Kong and Jurassic
World. It's a case by
World.
case. Like, you got to let me know what scene.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I think the Brontosaurus Stampede scene is pretty close to the quality of like the gyrosphere going. That's what it looks like.
They darken the colors of the dinosaurs in the gyrosphere one to kind of help, but it didn't work.
Not really.
Anne tries to play dead.
I like the relationship between her and King Kong.
But then it cuts back to Baxter, who's like, everything sucks. And in this scene, I have to see the theatrical cut because this scene isn't the theatrical cut. I don't remember it being here. Maybe it is. But I think them starting to build the raft is not included in the theatrical cut.
No.
Because they're all just hanging out by the water. And he's just like, well, we got to go back. They're taking off in 9 hours.
Yep. Yeah.
And they're like, what about Anne? He's like, look, she was nice, but we got to go.
Nice girl, but we got to live.
And I'm just like,
you said that. You're like, yeah, I agree with him.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm literally being like, Yeah, I don't really know this chick. Goodbye.
When they created the raft in the original, they've got the whole scene where the brontosaurus eats the guy out of the tree, which you can't do. Like, even though you want to be an authentic King Kong, like people aren't they're gonna laugh at that in like a modern movie. So they created this entirely new, actually, creatures with these scorpion things, which are one of the main enemies of the game.
Yeah, the video game, those scorpion things are ridiculous. Yeah.
And then they created I believe it's called the
Pteranodon, yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's a big eel with a piranha
This
face.
is a great sequence.
Yes.
And I wish it was in the movie, but...
Well, yeah, it's weird. Let me see here. Yeah, so before that, we get Kong with Anne. And she does the thing where she's like entertaining him.
She's doing the comedian, right?
Yeah, and he's amused because she tried to sneak away and he found her, but then he gets embarrassed.
I love his laugh.
Yeah. But then he gets embarrassed because he tries to act all tough, but then a rock
falls on him. He's great.
And he does the thing. You ever see like a dog or cat do that when they get embarrassed?
You're talking about they get embarrassed.
Yeah, not my current cat. She doesn't get embarrassed by shit. She's awful. But I've had other cats that were like trying to do like a cool jump and then fell, and then people looked at them and they don't know how to feel, so they just run away.
Yeah.
And then they come back later and they're like, did you guys forget I did that?
Yeah.
That didn't happen. That was another cat. That was me.
I like the way that they played that off with the boulder falling because it made Kong like a pretty relatable animal.
Yeah. But then it cuts back to them and it's like this long ass scene with them being attacked by the Pteranodon.
Yes.
And again, the scene is fun, but even this scene is dragged out. Like with the guy underwater swimming very slowly.
Jack Driscoll doing the whole
the awkward green screen in this too.
It's such a cool scene, but it had to be cut.
Yeah, the director's cut. It really is like we're trying to build Kong as a sympathetic character. We got to cut to monsters fighting these guys
because
we're back to establishing Kong as we got to cut back to monsters fighting these guys.
It's a juggling act because you've got like, are we going to tell this super serious King Kong drama like romance thing, or are we going to make the monster movie?
Because we were talking about it, like I prefer the scenes with like Kong interacting with Anne a little bit more.
I do too.
And the action scenes that involve him more so than the guys.
It's what you come for too.
Yeah.
I mean, but that being said, the other action scenes are cool and good. Yeah. They're well done.
Yeah.
The creature design in this is phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, if they had sped up the first goddamn act, we could have had those scenes that it probably wouldn't have felt as it was dragging
just
too much.
Start off on the island.
Yeah. Just like, if you just sped up the first act, you could have had all this still.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have been as jarring.
No.
But for this, it's like, it took us a long time to get here to see Kong, and you keep cutting away from Kong. And not even like a stylistic thing like Godzilla, how it keeps cutting away from Godzilla. But
right.
That was kind of like a stylistic choice.
This is more distracting from the mainline story.
Yes. I mean, that version is frustrated for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yes, this one, it's just like, what do you want me? Is this monsters attacking people, or do I care about Kong?
Right.
You can have a little bit of this, but I need more of this.
Mm-hmm.
And they were right to cut it out for the theatrical cut, but even the theatrical cut has a little too much.
It does. It's
like the stampede scene could have been trimmed down a little bit.
Yeah, but like we said, they're not bad. Like they're not bad scenes. Like there's nothing in them where you're like, oh yeah, this was cut because it conflates with something else in the movie, continuity wise or something.
Yeah.
No, it's just we don't need it.
No.
And if you're trying to make the best movie you can, you got to leave that cool ass scene on the cutting room floor.
Yes. But it does have a scene at the very end where Carl's just filming.
It makes him look like a villain.
He's filming this chaos, and then the guy gets eaten, and Lumpy's like, did you get that?
You just get that, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, he is like...
He's the bad guy.
Remorseless.
And his face is like he's just
losing.
That's evil, man.
But yeah, then we get another extended scene. It makes sense why they cut this. It's kind of interesting where Anne is running through the woods, and then the men hear something in the woods.
Oh, and they shoot at them.
And Lumpy goes to shoot, and you're made to think they killed Anne.
Right.
But they really kill a giant bird?
Yeah.
A giant baby bird?
It's a cool practical effect.
It is the only practical monster I can think of in this movie.
They had a practical raptor head that pulled that guy down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a practical effect of this baby bird. And then, they shoot it in the head to kill it. I'm like,
it's a little dark.
Yeah, that's a little too dark for this version of the movie.
That can kind of go because in the scene right before that, Lumpy's criticizing Carl,
Yeah.
And then, like, did Lumpy just kill Anne? So it's like, yeah, you know what? Get rid of this scene.
I get why they killed that. I don't even think you need to write that scene.
No.
It's fake tension, too, because you know he's not going to shoot Anne.
But it's also like we need Jack Driscoll to feel like some sort of urgency, and we need more cool creatures. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is funny how in the theatrical cut, they're like, oh, maybe we didn't need all these creatures. We just kind of need Kong.
Yeah.
And I mean, we need creatures.
But you got to have the T-Rex.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have been a toy thing where they're like, well, we got to put out a toy of the piranha.
I wasn't like picking up any of the action figures. I remember. No. I wonder if some guys.
I got that years later, but that's it.
I wonder if they did action figures of like the Piranodon and stuff.
I don't know if they did.
I wonder if they're like, where the fuck was this in the movie?
Yeah. I have a statue. It's funny. I moved all my Kong stuff home, and then we did this episode, and I had to bring it all back. But yeah, I have the statue of Kong on top of the V-Rex, like, fighting it.
Yeah.
So at some point, like, after Kong runs away, the guys are walking over a log.
Oh yeah.
And we get this in all three versions.
It needs to be in the movie.
Yes.
It's a staple of the King Kong story.
You only really needed this. I don't even think you needed the Stampede scene, to be honest.
Probably not.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
The cool thing about the whole log scene is that we establish Captain Hayes or Mr. Hayes' death.
Yeah.
I always like this scene. I still like it to this day.
Yeah.
However, what happens afterward, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah.
Choi dies.
Yes.
The log.
He makes it in the original.
Yeah.
I think he had a different name in the original, but he makes it in the original.
I do love Lumpy's, like, his serious care for, like, his friend.
He's like, no!
But he throws the log down. King Kong comes out of the cave and shit like that. It needs to be in the movie. Now, I do think it's a little weird that they kind of cut away from that and go to something else. Makes you wonder where Anne is during this
then
scene.
afterwards they cut to Anne.
Yeah.
To break up that action.
Yeah.
Where she's being chased by giant iguanas.
What are really cool.
I remember, she sneaks into like a trunk, and the one iguana gets eaten. I love it when the one gets eaten, you see the other one going like, nah.
Leave. And then it's got this great transition, and now we rack focus on like
the centipede coming in. I remember my friend in the theater almost throwing up when the antenna went in her mouth.
And then the one's coming right back to
and he was like, like it was the creepiest thing for him. And meanwhile, I'm like, there's more bugs
They
coming.
should have those were what was supposed to make Dr. Burke freak out behind the waterfall in the Lost World instead of the snake. Yeah, it was supposed to be a scene just like that where it's like coming and he like just freaks out and then the T-Rex grabs him instead of it's a snake.
It's a harmless snake.
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool that they freak her out. She runs out of the log, and then you like go up, and you're like,
and like
shit!
The big like V-Rex, I guess, is still eating the thing.
Yeah. Very cool creature design here, and I think that this movie set the standard going forward for those Jurassic World movies.
You were talking about because the teeth are all janky.
Yeah, if you look at the teeth in the V-Rexes for King Kong, they're all like ingrown and grown out in weird, fucked up places. And the Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor, even the Giga that they're putting in Dominion, they've gone for that. I guess Colin Trevorrow just really liked the screwed up look of the dinosaurs in this movie, which it looks cool. But like, the V-Rex comes out and starts chasing her.
Yes, and it's got like alligator like
scoots and stuff. It's got
yeah.
very small eyes.
Yes, very tiny eyes.
And you were saying how much cooler it would be if they used the Jurassic Park T-Rex design.
Yeah, part of me was wondering like if they had just used the Jurassic Park T-Rex.
Because that when you talk about iconic like creature design and you think about a T-Rex, which is probably why they went in a different direction with this.
Yes.
But yeah,
and also licensing and whatnot.
Have you ever seen there was an old Japanese CD included soundtrack stuff that came out, and on the soundtrack, this is from Universal.
Okay.
And it has an image of King Kong, fighting the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3.
No.
Oh, you should check that out.
I'm gonna check that out.
That's very cool.
That reminds me of years and years and years ago when they were making Dragon Slayer.
Oh.
They took a picture of the dragon from that movie. I forget what it's called. And they took a picture of it fighting the Rancor.
Oh yeah,
for a magazine.
Yes,
and for
cool.
years, people thought that was a crate dragon, and it's like, no, it's the dragon from Dragon Slayer. This fight scene is long and excessive, but I like it because it has Kong and our main character
in peril,
and she's in danger.
Yeah.
He's got to protect her.
It's well choreographed.
Yeah. I love the whole I mean, it is excessive that he did 3 goddamn T-Rexes,
but that's what people came to see.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah.
Yes.
It needed to happen.
Yeah. In this scene, I don't mind. I like this whole. Scene.
It deserves to be in the movie for sure.
Yes, and
it was all over the trailers and shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the later trailers maybe, but I think the first trailer just made it seem like it was one fight with the T-Rex.
I love
this image they've used. For things. Yeah.
I always loved in the theater the first time I saw him rip the tongue out of that T-Rex.
Cool.
Like, whoa, shit.
But yeah, so he kills one with a rock, and then they tumble into a cavern full of vines.
It's kind of like a Land Before Time situation.
I love that. While he's fighting the one is the vine, and its
trying
mouth is just open like a bird, trying to eat Anne.
And I told you I love the clap that they make when their jaws.
By the way, they are movie monsters because I think any other animal will be more concerned about falling
or surviving.
Yeah, like oh god.
But it makes for such a great scene, and you are remaking a monster movie. So,
but yeah, they make it all the way down into the mud. The one V-Rex's face gets smashed on the wall twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one V-Rex that comes to eat her, Kong jumps in front of it. He does the famous jaw rip, and of course he adds the tongue biting. And
the tongue biting
was pay
great.
Tribute to the original where he's playing with the jaw. But you find out that this whole thing was just him trying to be like, I am tough. You forgot about that rock thing, right? Because he does the thing where he poses again.
Yeah,
I'm cooler.
That's pretty fun.
I'm cooler than you.
And she kind of looks at him now. He's like, "Oh, you saved me."
She's like, "Fuck, all right. Well, I don't.
All these other monsters could have eaten."
That's the thing. It's like I don't want to be here, but if I am,
you're the best thing to be around.
Yeah. So Peter Jackson is obsessed with the missing spider pit sequence,
as he should be.
So if you don't know, see the original King Kong, the director was the opposite, where he went, "My movie's too long."
Yeah, I'm gonna cut shit out of it.
I could probably use this spider pit sequence. That's why it's weird in the original that they fall into the pit, and then Jack is climbing, but then we see the 2-armed lizard come up.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck is that thing? And there were people who argued for years if it actually existed or not, and someone found a frame of a spider in the pit. And I guess that's where the lizard came from.
So when it screened, did they actually include this scene in 1933 in theaters?
I don't think they did.
Okay,
or
so
maybe they did.
This was. I know it was lost.
It's definitely lost. I don't know if they screened it. He might have just trimmed it out.
He did recreate it in stop motion.
Yes, I was going to say
very
when you
cool.
get the DVD, Peter Jackson so he wanted to do this so he could do the spider pit sequence.
Can you imagine what the producers are thinking? What are you wasting money on? And
I think he did that on his own. I think his production company did that on his own. But yeah, he decided hey, while I'm doing this, wouldn't it be fun to do the original Spider? And he got actors who look the same.
It's great. It is a great sequence, both the stop motion that he did, and in the final cut.
In this,
and they needed to include that in the final theatrical cut.
It was funny that they don't have the 2-legged lizard, but then it makes it into Kong Skull Island, and it's the main villain.
Yeah, the skull crawler.
It is so funny they picked that to be the main villain. I'm like, it isn't King Kong for a second. I think he kicks it down.
Okay, so here's what I think went through because Kong Skull Island came out in 2017. It was after Jurassic World.
Yes.
So they're thinking, fuck, we can't use dinosaurs or we're going to compete with Jurassic Park is back.
Yeah.
That lizard. They're like, okay, that's the thing. Because you notice that they went for more the tone of the 70s Kong with the Toho Monsterverse. So they're like, that's what we're going to use.
And those things are cool. I like them.
They're cool, yeah.
I have a commentary track for Kong Skull Island.
Probably my least favorite Monsterverse movie. I saw it once. I don't like it.
I like it now. Now that I've embraced that.
I've only seen it the one time. I need to rewatch it.
You rewatch it because once you realize that they were going for the schlocky Toho sort of thing, when you go in with that mindset, it's a lot better.
Samuel Jackson saying, hold on to your butts.
Yeah.
John Goodman's death. And
there's definitely still dumb shit in it. And the director will admit to the dumb shit in it.
Yeah.
Like when Honest Trailers, when it was still good before they fired my friend Andy Signor, who was completely innocent. He won his lawsuit. Can't argue with it. They actually had him on. And he because the director hated Cinema Sins. So he went on Honest.
I think everyone hates Cinema Sins.
So he went on Honest Trailers.
Jordan Bell Roberts actually a big Jurassic Park guy too.
Yeah. So he went on Honest Trailers and he pointed the flaws out in his movie, and then he defended some of the people's complaints. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely go back and rewatch it.
I don't hold anything against him or the movie itself. I just didn't enjoy it when it came out.
Neither did
I will rewatch it.
Like I said, neither did I until I rewatched it.
Yeah.
The music is eerie.
It is very eerie.
Because it's not matching any of the things in the scene. It's just this constant like,
that's life on the island. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like real creepy. And there's just so many fucking bugs down there. And the scene makes you itchy.
Crickets.
And I love that they can't even climb because they show that there's big crabs that'll come out and grab you.
Yeah, that's great. I think I talked to you about the creature design of the leeches. Is that what they are?
Yeah, those things are terrifying.
They're like graboids. And Lumpy has one of the best PG-13 deaths like ever.
Oh God, they fucking devour.
And I'm like, what a way to go! Yeah. Like when the one starts getting his head,
and I remember seeing those like fleshy tentacles, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, if they ever did another Thing movie, I wouldn't mind CGI tentacles. And then they did, and it was very bad. And we have a review for it.
I think it's cool that he actually does take a couple of them out, like with the machete.
The most unrealistic thing in the scene is him Tommy gunning the crickets off of him.
Sure.
I'm like, oh, fuck you. No.
Probably the most unrealistic scene is Captain Hayes' body.
He's just there.
And I hate the fact, I don't like... See, this is where it ends up going. Jimmy grabs his hat, and I'm like...
That's in the extended cut. That's not even in the theatrical cut.
That's what I didn't remember that, and I'm like, he grabbed his hat? That's a little morbid. You're not going to bury or like... You're not going to haul his carcass up?
Yeah.
Like not even any of the bugs try to fuck with him. Like,
yeah, that was weird, because they needed the body there for that scene that they then cut out. But yeah, the one good thing I do like in the scene is that Jack Black just loses it because the film...
he goes crazy,
The film gets exposed and ruined, and he thinks he's ruined, so he just beats the shit out of all the bugs.
He's like fighting all the bugs and shit.
With like the broken tribode. He's like, ah!
It's crazy.
But they get saved by Bruce Baxter.
Which is a great comeback, because he's like swinging down like an old like 1930s action thing.
Because earlier he's like, heroes don't look like me in the real world. They have
got a pot belly and a bald head.
But yeah, so he comes back, they save him, the crew saves them for some reason.
And for some reason they didn't realize
Englehorn should just be out at this point. He's like, the boat's fixed. Fuck all of you.
Well, it's also funny that none of them realized Jack was climbing up the wrong side of the wall until he gets to the top.
Yeah, so Jack
Carl Denham's fucking psychopathic too.
Because Carl realizes like he's gonna bring Anne back.
Yeah.
And the gorilla will follow. And he convinces Englehorn, he's like, we could trap this gorilla and make a ton of money.
Dude, he's
it.
evil.
He is.
He is evil, bro.
He is.
He's fucking Satan.
Kong takes Anne home. And this movie references other movies that were inspired by King Kong. And of course, I'm talking about him bringing her home and showing her his dead family that he still lives with is from Ega, the Richard Keel classic about the caveman who lives in the desert.
Sure.
And he kidnaps Roxy, and he shows her the skeletons of his family who are just paper mache, but they're there, and he still talks to them. Yeah, it's kind of sad because they were like talking about like this Kong, like gorillas are supposed to be social
animals. They
animals.
live in troops and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have one in isolation, you've seen in like zoos and stuff.
They
like,
get sad.
Yeah, like I don't even watch Tiger King, but they talked about how he had the two chimpanzees separated. And then we were taken out of his custody. They like embraced each other because they wanted to hang out. And he's like, fuck, I deprived them of like this growth. So in the Kong in this, for whatever reason, he doesn't have his family. They've been killed or whatever.
They all died in the cave, it looks like. Either that or that's where their bones are just kind of being collected by him. Yeah. It's interesting because I don't remember there being that many skeletons. Yeah. I remember there being one or two. But then you see the movie... Is it in the theatrical cut?
Yeah, it's in the theatrical
There's
cut.
like 5 skulls, so like there's a lot of dead
I like how
bodies.
they reveal the one. Like you see it in the corner.
Yeah, like
as
leaning.
Kong's coming in, and then he moves, the sunlight lights it up, so you see it. And also while he's there's a bunch of scary bats in the cave. But he looks out into the sun at the top of this cliff where he looks at the whole island.
This is where you can see that Peter Jackson's retooling some stuff from the original, because you've got 2 fight sequences that are cut from this film that are in the original.
Yeah.
When he's going through the cave, there's the plesiosaur snake creature, which he doesn't fight in this movie.
No.
He just, peacefully walks. I guess because you've got so many other fights.
He just had like a bunch of fights, especially in the extended version.
3 T-Rexes.
Yeah.
And then they cut the Pteranodon fight and instead have the bats, and that's how Anne gets away. And
but I like them just sitting, looking at the sunlight.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
He feels weird because he's like, I have something to hang out with now.
Well, he's also... I like the idea when you see the corpses of all the other King Kongs that like he's got all these scars and like all these, and you realize this is a dangerous place to live.
Yeah.
He's the only gorilla left.
Yes.
Like, they're all dead.
I don't know how they died, but presumably from other fights.
I'm guessing they get into
something.
fights with like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have a nice scene where they just watch the sunset. All this ruckus freaks out the bats.
They go
who
crazy.
then fly out, and then Kong starts fighting the bats, and
Yep.
he gets distracted by them.
And they grab onto a bat wing and like.
Yeah, well, I like how they're sneaking on the vine, and then he's grabbing the vine. But then
Oh
they
yeah, that's a
grab
great
onto the
way. We're
bat.
pulling it back up. Yeah, yeah.
And I like when he's just roaring off the cliff. He's like, "Fuck you! Give me back my lady!"
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It's so excessive. They could have just climbed down a vine.
Yeah.
They had to jump on a bat and then fly into a river.
It's a little ridiculous.
But yeah, they make it back to the wall where this big trap is being set. And they have this big fight. Like, he comes on the wall, he breaks through the doors. He doesn't just separate
Oh my
them.
God, that was badass.
Yeah.
Even in the theater, dude, because you've got all the people on the other side. And remember, Preston does it early. And King Kong,
Oh yeah, and he gets hit with the face.
I think I always wanted to see the Jurassic Park gates again. Because at this time, you talked a lot about how like this really did itch that scratch after Jurassic Park.
Scratch that itch.
Yes, after Jurassic Park went away, because Jurassic Park 3 is like 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah,
and this was the last time for a while that we got a proper dinosaur movie.
Yeah, so like we were talking, we got movies with dinosaurs in them, like the Land of the Lost remake, and
But
then
that wasn't
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah.
There wasn't something like this PG-13 action
Until
adventure.
Jurassic World again. And like we were talking about how, again, this movie was 10 when that came out. Now it's almost 20 years old. But this was exciting. I always wanted to see a T-Rex or something burst through the Jurassic Park gates. And but when Kong fucking like launches, and you know all these dudes are like, they are not like well matched.
I think there's an extended shot where he like shatters a house that's there.
Yeah, the natives, they don't get involved.
Oh, the natives are gone.
Yeah, they're like, fuck this. In the original King Kong, the famous thing where like he breaks through and like, but no, they're not fucking with him.
They're like, man, those poor natives, they left the. And
oh my God, now their gates busted.
Their gates busted?
Now anything could come in and kill them. I never thought about that.
Yeah. I talked about in the 70s one, they're probably thrilled Kong is gone, because I'm sure there's other
take him. Yeah.
Sure, there's other monsters on the island, but it doesn't look like there's many. But yeah.
That's the problem with that movie.
Yeah.
There's just a snake.
But yeah, I remember in that movie, they're like, oh, those natives, we took their god. They're just going to be drunk losers.
I think
It's
they're going to be very happy.
Or they're going to be able to actually reuse all the resources on their island for the first time ever.
Ruins and shit.
Yeah, they're like, hey, we can actually like go in there without being eaten by a gorilla. Let's hang out.
Or a snake. He killed that thing too.
I mean, sure, there's probably other giant snakes, but like, look at all this greenery we can actually have access to. The scene is really like tragic where he's just trying to get to Anne and get her back. And she understands she can't be with him, but she also doesn't want him hurt.
Yeah, and they do the great chloroform reuse. But
they try to like hit him with the chloroform, but it's not strong enough yet.
Not quite. But I love the scene where he bites that guy's head off.
Yeah, he just like bites him because he was biting people in the original. Apparently, I don't know if they filmed it or if it was meant to be there, but apparently they were going to have a cameo with the Hobbits here.
Oh,
there were a bunch of crewmen,
where they were.
There were a bunch of crewmen who were going to die. I think it was here. And it totally could have worked, but I do think it would have been distracting.
Who was it? Was it just Frodo and
I think it was all of them.
Oh, was it Sam?
But
you can't kill Sam.
But not. I mean, not as the Hobbits. They would just be the actors.
I know, but still, if they're all together, you're supposed to make the connection.
But yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, that would have kind of taken me out of the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken it seriously either.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be...
This is the most, like, turning point traumatic scene that you're gonna get.
This is like, I'm invested in the emotion of the Kong and whatnot. And a distracting cameo wouldn't work here.
You got Carl up on the rocks. He delivers the final chloroform.
Yeah, after they stab him with the harpoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you think, would that really be the thing that actually hurts Kong after all the Tyrannosaur, like, bite marks?
Yeah, because the Tyrannosaur bone's like that. The harpoon's like that.
But it was like...
And it's barbed and in his...
it looks like it's like sticking out where it didn't really go in that much.
It probably made it in his bone or something.
I do like the fact that Carl's like, we're millionaires, boys.
I'll share it with all of you. And you never see those guys again.
Like, fucking, this guy is a cruel bastard.
We cut to New York.
Very, very harsh transition, much like San Diego and the Lost World.
We were talking about the excessiveness. It's shocking that he showed restraint and didn't do what the 70s did, where we get a scene of him in the
I
boat.
do like it on the boat in the 70s where he's
Yes.
like causing a ruckus and stuff.
But we just got right to New York, and it's the night of the big show.
Mm.
And we're made to believe that Anne is the star of the show,
Yeah.
how they're cutting it. And at the same time, Jack is putting on a very problematic play. But it's got dialogue from when he had Anne earlier, and this whole thing, it's like he misses Anne. He thinks Anne's going to be at the show. Everyone's excited. All the producers who hated Carl,
Now they love him. Oh, you brought back the ape.
Yes, and Carl introduces the show, and he's like, yes, he was tamed by a girl from New York, and everyone cheers.
Yeah, you mentioned those. They probably something added in because of 9/11.
It's still early post 9/11.
Girl from New York.
Yeah. It's not quite the scene in Spider-Man. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Like, ooh, that was added after the fact. By the way, the show sucks. Like, it's cool to see a giant gorilla, but if you think about it, like, they open up the curtain, the gorilla's just like,
Feel a little bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like,
I do like Bruce Baxter running out there in his safari.
He should have had the mustache.
Yeah, it would have been great with the mustache.
It would have been a great payoff.
It's funny with that character, too, because they kind of go in a direction when he saves everyone that he's like redeeming himself from the narcissistic Hollywood tendencies.
Yeah.
But then he runs away at the end.
Yeah, well, other people can deal with it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I like the show that they're putting on. And again, a little excessive. It's like, yes, Peter Jackson, I know you love the original Kong. You didn't have to pull out the original costumes and the music and recreate a scene from it. You're already remaking the movie. But yeah, like the chief looks like the chief in the original, and the music from the original is playing there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it here. Kyle Chandler didn't dance enough in the new Kong movies. I like his gorilla dancing in this.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
The next movie, they should have him dancing with King Kong.
You think they'll do a Son of Kong one day? Probably not. They almost did that World War I thing. I don't know.
Nah. So Carl picks the worst time to take pictures.
On stage while the presentation's
while the
happening.
play is still going on.
Let's
This
take
is
some
not a good
pictures.
play.
Yeah. Very weird.
And we find out Anne's not there.
Mm-hmm.
She
and
is.
Kong's distracted from that. He's like, "You're not Anne."
Yeah, so we see Anne's there, but then because the movie is excessive, we have to cut to her in the other show.
Where she's doing what she always
slow motion.
It is very. This is the part of the movie where in theaters, the theatrical cut, even I was like, okay, I've seen King Kong Peter Jackson. I gotta pee really bad. He better start climbing that tower. Really. You know what I mean?
Yes, and it's like a slow motion, sad song scene, and it's like,
and Jack
I mean, sure, show the reveal that she's not actually there, but it didn't need to be filmed like this. Like I didn't need to go see a tap dancer to break up this action. Breaks out of the chrome steel. I like that. He's like, these are chrome steel.
He breaks
and it just
out.
shatters it.
Yeah.
Because Carl does not know the riddle of steel.
Yes, it's flesh.
Yes.
The Kong subscribes
cuts to James Earl Jones
Doom.
like, I knew it. I like him chasing Adrian Brody throughout the streets in the car.
Fucks his car up pretty good.
Yeah, well, I like before the car, he's just he's in Times Square, and I was telling you when I saw this movie earlier that day, I had been in New York.
You were there. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's funny. And then I go to watch the movie, like, I was just there. But yeah, I like that he's just digging into the bus, just grabbing people out.
This stuff is great, but it is too much.
It's too, at this point in the movie, it's a little too much.
We're well into the third act, and like I don't think Peter Jackson understood, like, because we know what to expect going in. We've seen the original movie.
Yeah.
We are looking forward to the final climactic action sequences, and when you add on top of that military trying to not only get Kong, but Kong reuniting with Anne, it's like, all right. This movie, you already overdid it with like all the.
That's the thing. He did overdo it with the island, and luckily he cut a lot out.
But the island, everything was so fucking cool.
If he had just a quicker first act, we could have had the stuff with the island. We could have separated where it's like first act is we're gonna get to the island, we're there, we meet Kong, and then you have like the island segment and then the New York segment, and then the New York stuff is kind of like an afterthought. But then he also wanted that to be big and loud and long.
And it's crazy because like every time I've watched this film, when they're like on the ice and everything, I'm like, all right.
So he beats up Jack, and just happens to be there, walking in slow motion.
in very slow motion, coming back to see Kong.
And they use this in the trailer, and it's cool for the trailer. But when you're watching,
this is a well-made movie, by the way. These are great shots, great musical integration, but
yeah, he grabs her. I don't know why she would even entertain this. Like, I know she cares for Kong, but at this point, she's like, no.
Yeah.
Sucks for him.
Let me just lead you down that path of death, Kong.
Yeah, but then, she's...
Like, shit.
Yeah, I don't know what her plan is here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do the ice skating thing where he's all happy.
Yeah. That was the scene in the theater. I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, the military attacks him. There's an extended scene right after this,
which I had never seen before,
where this military guy's like, this gorilla's taking over the city.
No, damn dirty ape.
We're gonna get him. I don't want him in my city. We're gonna show him out. And then Kong just like knocks the truck and kills all of them.
We cut its ugly head off and we ram it up at the head.
That would have been a good scene for the Hobbits.
Yeah, it is funny. But it takes away from the seriousness of what's going on, and it's kind of like, it's straight up Peter Jackson humor. Like, but it didn't need.
But it's a little too late for this kind of humor.
Yeah.
The movie at this point is a little too serious. Where like the humor.
Well, this is the climax. Like you're not supposed to have any goofiness going on right now. I felt really. I always feel bad like when Kong dies in this movie because he really like you can see him. He's dying. Like when he's like.
Well, they fucking at some point they almost trick you into thinking he's gonna make it.
Yeah, because
he like shatters the one plane. I look when he grabs the one plane.
Oh yeah, and that's on the poster. And I've always loved that scene. I was like, oh, I'm waiting for him to sling it because like when he grabs that one plane and slings it to the other one, I do like badass.
They literally show the plane's like wings folding and it just falls into oblivion.
Fucking cool.
And by the way, we were talking. I'm like, wow, the CG really holds up here. Like it, shockingly still holds up. Like the city and everything.
Yeah, the CGI model with Kong alone. There's like a lot of close-ups in some of this stuff.
Yeah,
and he's got Anne with him.
Yes,
and it looks really good.
Yes, some of the green screen with her could be dodgy, but like all the stuff with the planes and the city, I'm like, this still looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
Usually, you go back and you watch these movies, and you're like, eh.
They did a great job on this final. This is. The most apart from the T-Rex fight, you're looking forward to the Empire State Building scene.
But yeah, he tragically dies.
Yep,
and it's very, very sad.
Yeah,
and it is pretty sad because you hear the heartbeat and everything. You see like his eyes roll back, and then he falls off, and it's like, oh, buddy,
yeah,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, that shot of looking down while he's like,
it's like really slow at the planes coming.
That was the one time where slow motion's actually needed in the movie.
And the music like gets drowned out there, which I like, and she's very sad, and then she hugs Adrian Brody.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about the scene where all the like military people are like getting their picture taken with the dead body of Kong?
I mean, it's tragic.
Yeah, it makes sense. But
now realistically, they should all be covered in blood and entrails.
You know what would have been a good twist for this?
What?
He should have fallen on top of Carl Denham.
That would have. Well, the Carl Denham equivalent dies in the '76 version. Yeah,
he does. But
Carl Denham, because he doesn't die in the original. They kept him alive, but it's like this version of Carl Denham.
But this guy is the bad guy, and instead he gets his.
The way they cut it, they make it seem just like he's naive and overly ambitious. But yeah, when you watch the extended cut, it's like this fucker needs to die.
People dying.
This dude needs to die right now.
He's like, oh yeah, that'll be great for the film.
Like, but they almost ruined the scene. Because they wanted a Fay Wray cameo because she was still alive at the time.
Nobody would have understood.
And it was going to cut to an old lady doing the whole "it was beauty that killed the beast" line.
Was that supposed to be Anne grown up? Like
no, it was just going to be
like
random old lady.
Titanic thing. Okay, well that's even weirder.
Some random old lady just happened to be there to say the line because she knows what's going on. And they were talking about how they were going to go to her apartment and blue screen it. And I'm like, oh, thank God they chose that. That's terrible.
I still don't like Carl saying it because of what he's done to cause all this. And it looks like he hasn't learned anything.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm going to go shoot Son of Kong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if anything, he's just like, he should have, in this version of the movie, he should have just been like, yeah, this is my fault. My bad.
And been arrested or something.
The movie really should have ended with him going like, I can't help but think I might be responsible for this.
That's why I said King Kong should have fallen on top of him.
That would have been good.
I mean,
that would have been good. But yeah, then the movie ends with a nice James Newton Howard score.
Great music.
It makes you sad and cry. Not me.
I didn't cry.
But other people cried. 2 girls I saw it with the second time bawling their eyes out. I know my family cried. But yeah, it's very, very sad and tragic, and I really like it, but I think we can agree.
Yeah, it needed a lot cut out of it.
It's too excessive.
It's great.
And I love this movie, and I personally love a lot of that stuff. But I can see, like, as I'm older, I'm like, this should have been trimmed. Too many characters. The fight scenes go on a little too long.
I think this is the perfect example of like editing and narrative. Over
editing.
Everything else.
And by the way, you could still have this movie. Editing would have saved this movie.
Yeah. Well, like every scene is great. But when it comes to actually having a digestible, like really good structure, something we talked about The Lost World really suffered from with that hard cut to San Diego where they cut the whole scene out where the T-Rex wakes up on the boat and like kills people.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got Jurassic Park 3, which we've talked about, like, there is no third act. Really.
Yeah, there really isn't.
And this movie, you've got this collection of incredible scenes, but structurally, when you watch them all cut together, I said it felt like a rough cut.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, the story is buried. It's like burying the lead in like a misleading article.
Yes.
You're like, what is this like?
And this is the era where they do put out extended cuts. They do it less these days, which is upsetting.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
And knowing that he must have known he was going to be able to put out an extended cut. Knowing that, he could have trimmed the theatrical cut
a little bit more.
A little bit more.
I think
he could have had his cake and eaten it too.
But you've got Peter Jackson coming off of not one but three.
He got a little too egotistical.
Not only were those films considered like great,
Yeah.
those films made a shit ton of money.
I just think we know now that he's not the strongest writer.
Did he write? Well, yeah, he did write this with his wife, didn't he? I think this movie's written fine. I think this movie was just too excessive. Like, I really believe personally, King Kong.
Yeah, Frank Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Peter Jackson. No, I mean, he's a fine writer, but it's just like he doesn't know how to like
pull it back.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to like simplify things. And we saw that with The Hobbit. I don't know if he wrote The Hobbit, but we saw like
he did, I think, write some stuff in The Hobbit. I think with which you really get it with the second. I think the second Hobbit movie is the best. Even though they include the very questionable relationship between the dwarf and the elf. And then the whole third movie is that. Plus, dude, the Battle of the Five Armies in the book is literally like a couple of pages.
It's like nothing.
And then in the movie, Bilbo gets knocked out and he wakes up and it's done.
Yes.
And in the movie, the dwarves have like a fucking Gatling gun and like there's like these creature designs which Peter Jackson
because
loves.
people got so used to his long action-packed movies, and it's like, well, the story was actually also good in those, and the characters were good, and you knew what to focus on. It wasn't that it was just long and had a lot of action.
Yeah.
And that's what he did with this. He's like, I'm going to make it long and have a lot of action. It's like, well...
The other thing, too, is that none of it's bad. Like, all of the action in this, all of the, like, special
the green
effects.
screen and
the
stampede is bad.
I'm talking about the actual, like, there's nothing in it that screams poorly done.
Yes.
It's just
too much.
Too much.
Yes,
like, you got to cut this stuff back. But yeah, I still think the theatrical cut, even though I've made all those critiques about the extended cut, it's very fun.
Yeah.
The theatrical cut's the way to watch this movie. There's an even better movie buried in the theatrical cut.
Yes.
But even with all of that being said, too much of a good thing still means that you've got a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a good movie. Definitely think it's the second best King Kong after the 1933 original. And I don't think anything else comes like at a close third for me. Like, I like Son of Kong and Godzilla vs. Kong, but those movies are like further down.
For me, 76 Kong.
I'll have to rewatch that, but how close do you think that film really is in quality to this?
Equal, I think.
Do you really think that? I don't know.
No, it's... I have a soft spot for that one.
Like, if you're going 5 out of 5 stars, 1933 original, 4.5 or 4 for this one.
Yes.
And then what do you do? Like,
and then 76. Well, you know,
like
that's
3 out of 5.
Out of 5.
Okay. Right.
No. Yeah, you're right.
There's a big gap in quality between the other King Kong
And the good thing with this is, I think we're done telling the story. I think we got it.
You don't think they'll ever remake it again?
We did it 3 times.
We'll make it another 50 years.
I don't know how you're going to top this version, which is why I don't mind having this more action schlocky Kong. It's like we had the other version. We had it.
I get that. I prefer this style. Like what they were doing in the original 33 version and the 2005 version, that's my Kong. Like the serious Kong. So,
but I mean, after a certain point, it's just like, well, we got it.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Do the story again?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, like it's what.
Also, probably the Achilles heel of trying to franchise King Kong is the fact that they tried to do that back in the day. And like, I don't hate Son of Kong.
Yeah.
But Son of Kong, and they did not know how to make sequels back then.
No, they did not.
Like even Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Like Son of Kong, they're like, let's sink the island so that we can't do anymore. And like, and Beneath
and then they're like,
let's fucking nuke the world.
Yeah. They were like, so we're going to do a third one. There's a new ape. He's called Joe Young. We're going to make Mighty Joe Young.
Even in King Kong versus Godzilla, they're like, yeah, this is Faroe Island.
Oh, because it's a different continuity.
Yeah, I know. Well, like they can't make a sequel. Yeah. You could technically say Son of Kong's connected because the fucking island's been destroyed. Yeah. But like, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a fun time.
It's great.
We really enjoyed this movie. It is too much. It is too excessive.
I definitely think even though it's too much and way too excessive, you're watching filmmaking like genius on display here all around.
This is an example of having too much creative control. Sometimes
this was his passion project.
Sometimes having a producer to reel in some ideas can help.
Yeah.
I know everyone thinks producers just
are the bane of the universe,
and they like ruin things because a lot of times they do.
Spielberg,
but there are occasionally times where having someone to push back on your ideas. We saw it with the Star Wars prequels when the director has free reign to do whatever he wants.
Sure.
And then the sequels are the opposite. But yeah, it's like you need someone to push back on some of your ideas. Like, hey, these are a business.
Yeah, you make movies to make money.
Yes.
And you talk about like producers having that like final say or control, which Peter Jackson had ultimate control in this movie.
Yes.
Spielberg stepped in a lot for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah.
Originally, that movie was supposed to be in London.
Okay.
The whole thing was going to be set on a boat, actually transporting the dinosaurs to the place. Originally, Malcolm was going to be on the boat trying to sabotage it. So
you told me about that. Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Spielberg was like, no. You can't, it'll take too long to get to London. It's going to be boring if all the dinosaurs are in cages in the boat the whole movie. California's way quicker. I went there in the Lost World. So sometimes a producer can step in, and I guess that's debatable if you think that. I actually think a Resident Evil Revelations style Jurassic Park movie sounds cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, someone probably should have stepped up here and been like, hey, Peter Jackson, we're already in New York. We don't need another hour.
Yes. Yes, we can speed this part up.
Yeah.
We can really speed this part up. But yeah, I'd say check it out. And you know what else you guys should check out? My good friend Clayton's channel.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can find me, Clayton Fioriti, on YouTube. I talk about Jurassic Park. I also have a second channel called Dragon Curve where I talk about everything. So, yeah.
It's a very, very good channel, and I highly recommend it.
Well, thank you so much, very famous Tony.
Yes, unless this is months from now and it's now bigger than mine, then in which case, do not subscribe.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. I hope by the time this comes out, I'm finally equally as famous as you.
You already are.
Yeah.
You've been in Cinemassacre stuff for years.
The bane of my existence is that I just feel like I'm never famous enough. And what could change that is if you go to patreon.com/hackthemovies and you donate money to me, annual subscription, please. Then I would think I would feel more famous.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, like, share, and subscribe. Download us on your podcast app of choice. We are on all podcasts. And you guys are great. Call our voicemail line, and we'll see you later. Do you think King Kong, the Peter Jackson King Kong, tries to do too much? Is it too ambitious? Is it too excessive? Let us know in the comments below.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.